Good morning, sunshine. Oh, I won't do that to you. I don't think I'm on yet, but I can pretend like I am. There I am. There I am. Good morning, anybody and everybody that's out there. And I started saying radio land, but that's not true. In internet land, in YouTube land, I'm not sure. I have to think about that one a minute. Okay, why is this right? Why am I right and that's wrong? Since there's nobody in here but us, let's try it this way. See if that flip flops. Probably won't, but it might. Well, I gotta do it back my way because I want it. I don't like trying to figure it out. I didn't know. I didn't. Is that always that way? See now on my screen and and stream yard whatever this is right and this is left. That's not on your screen. It's still backwards. Yeah, but look what. See, this is the couch is on my left, except in your vision, isn't it on my right? Hello, Tina. Good morning. Hey, Diana Hughes. Welcome in. Ian. Oh my God. Well, I hope Mark makes it because we'll have to. He has. We'll see if Mike makes it now. Because Mark has. Mark says if you're here, Mike won't be here. Well, can't be here. He's convinced that you're one and the same. How's Chuck, Tina? Or Chuck, if you're here, good morning, sir. Ah, yeah, see him. Hey, good morning, Carol Carkey. Look who's with us today. Ian's made it in. I honestly don't know if Mark's gonna make it or not. Yeah, I hadn't heard anything out of that boy since about Wednesday. Well, he probably needs to sleep. Mhm. Okay, so I'm hurting this morning. I'll just go ahead and admit it. Which is not that unusual, is it? Except that I had an accident this week. I tumbled down the driveway. There's a guy here buying something from us here at the house, and he happened to be in the yard and saw me go down and came up to help me up. I almost banged my head against the back of the car, but I didn't hit the car, I don't think, but I sure smacked the driveway. No, he doesn't. He was told he could resume all activities except swimming and lifting over 10 pounds, and he never does that anyway. I make it a rule. Don't go swimming, but never lift anything heavier than a cup of coffee. Oh, Tumble Bear would have been good. I didn't think of Tumble Bear. But I was tumbled, and I got a little bit of road rash on my elbow. Boy, it looks bruised now. Maybe it's shadow. Huh? Up in here, been really tender. My knee and part of my legs been sore. What I can feel, which always makes me wonder just how bad would it hurt. And I don't know how I didn't do it, but somehow I had my cane in my hand, and my cane slammed down against the asphalt. And I guess in an effort of me trying to catch myself, and somehow I didn't manage to smash my fingers between it and the driveway, which is what normally happens when I do anything like that, of course. I'm glad I didn't hit my head either, Carol. But thanks for thinking about it. Some people would say, and Brenda's probably one of them, but some people will say if I hit my, they'd probably be putting it a little different. They'd be saying, good thing you didn't hit the car of your head because you would have damaged your car. I tumbled over your mulch. I think I did too. Our driveway, it's one of those things that after we bought this house and I moved in and I actually got to study some things, I shake my head and think, now why did they do that? But our garage is kind of on an angle. And when it hits the driveway, they've rolled the kind of a curb almost down to the driveway level. And I think I got one going downhill. My feet got tangled up. I think I did hit the mulch. I didn't think that at first, but something got in my way of my feet as I was trying to catch myself. Gravity didn't help. Whenever you're my size, gravity is a constant reminder of where I'm at. Once got two fingers stuck between a shopping cart and the asphalt. That hurt. Oh yeah, that absolutely, Ian. I've been pretty close to that a time or two. I had a friend of mine, a gentleman I used to work with in Nashville. He was out working on the flight line one day, or the ramp, and somehow the airplane, I believe, started to roll. I guess the brakes weren't on, or somebody was. I don't know. Actually, I don't think they had it running. They probably had it just on a tug. But anyway, it moved, and he tried to throw a chalk under it, a block of wood that keeps the airplane from rolling forward or backwards. And he got his finger caught between that block of wood, the tire, and the tarmac or the asphalt of the ramp, and ripped a bunch of skin off and really messed his finger up. And it took that thing forever to heal. Gravity works. It's a real thing, Ian. It's, Galileo and Newton, they were on to something there with the gravity, the whole gravity talk. Whether it's to our advantage or not doesn't answer the question. Ian the philosopher. There is a pun about that being a tumultuous fall. Oh my God, Ian. Oh, my pun generator wasn't working. I should have thought of that. Tumultuous. Good one, Ian. Oh, Tina said that gravity works. I thought, why I can't read this morning. Thought Ian said that. I guess since I was talking to Ian about, or Ian was telling us about smashing his fingers. Well, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read for a moment. I tried to get ahead. If you guys remember, I was reading the Ballad of Blasphemous Bill, and the guy that had to go get his friend Bill and go bury him because he had promised to do so. And so he was packing up his dog team and was heading out at the dawn of day. You know what it's like in the Yukon Wild when it's 69 below? I don't, but I can only imagine. When the ice worms wriggle their purple heads through the crust of the pale blue snow, when the pine trees crack like little guns in the silence of the wood. Now, I've heard that. A little barely. Got cold enough here one time to crack some trees. It's I can't imagine it's 69 below. And the icicles hang down like tusk under the parka hood. When the stovepipe smoke breaks sudden off and the sky is weirdly lit, and the careless feel of a bit of steel burns like a red-hot spit. I've done that. Smash my fingers, scrape my fingers when they're super cold, and even though they seem numb, it hurts like hellfire. I can't stop yawning. I always yawn when I first start talking. It'll pass. And I lost my place. Oh, hurts like the devil. And when the mercury is a frozen ball and the frost fiend stalks to kill, well, it was like that the day when I set off to look for Bill. Oh, the awful hush that seemed to crush me down on every hand as I blundered blind with a trail to find through that blank and bitter land. Half dazed, half crazed to the winter wild with its grim heartbreaking woes, and the ruthless stripe for a grip on life that only the sourdough knows. And I bet a lot of people forget or don't even realize that the whole idea of sourdough bread and the sourdoughs were originally the 49ers, I believe, that went to California for the gold rush. Became known as sourdoughs, and I believe the whole idea of the sourdough, probably not the whole idea, but at least one version of the idea of bread and sourdough making or sourdough bread making came from gold mine or prospectors. And then I'm going to try to find that blanket there. Half dazed, half crazed in the winter wild in its grim, heartbreaking woes and the ruthless strife for a grip of life that only the sourdough knows. There he is. Okay, you have to be quiet. I'm reading. It's reading time, so shh. North by the compass, north I pressed, river and peak and plain. Past like a dream, I slept to lose, and I waked to dream again. River and plain and mighty peak, and who could stand unawed? As the summits blazed, he could stand undazed at the foot of the throne of God. North, north, through a land of crust, shunned by the scouring brutes. And all I heard was my own harsh word and the whine of the malamutes, till at last I came to a cabin squat built on the side of the hill. And I burst in the door, and there on the floor, frozen to death, lay Bill. Ice, white ice, like a winding sheet, sheathing each smoke-grimmed wall. Ice on the stovepipe, ice on the bed, ice gleaming over all, sparkling ice on the dead man's chest, glittering ice in his hair, ice on his fingers, ice in his heart, ice in his glassy stare. Hard as a log and trussed like a frog with his arms and legs outspread. I gazed at the coffin I'd brought for him, and I gazed at the gruesome dead, and at last I spoke. Bill liked his joke. But still, gall darn his eyes, a man had ought to consider his mates and the way he goes and dies. Have you ever stood in an Arctic hut in the shadow of the pole with a little coffin 6x3 and a grief you can't control? Have you ever sat by a frozen corpse that looks at you with a grin? And that seems to say, you may try all day, but you'll never jam me in. I'm not a man of the quitting kind, but I never felt so blue as I sat there gazing at that stip and studying what I'd do. Then I rose and I kicked off the husky dogs that were nosing round about, and I lit a roaring fire in the stove and I started to thaw Bill out. Well, I thawed and thawed for 13 days, but it didn't seem no good. His arms and legs stuck out like pegs, as if they was made of wood. Till at last I said, it ain't no use. He froze too hard to thaw. He's obstinate and he won't lie straight, so I guess I got a saw. So I sawed off poor Bill's arms and legs and laid him snug and straight in that coffin he picked himself with a dinky silver plate. And I came nigh near to shedding a tear as I nailed him safely down. And I stowed him away in my Yukon sleigh, and I started back to town. So I buried him as the contract was in a narrow grave and deep, and there he's waiting the great cleanup when the judgment sluice head sweep. And I smoke my pipe and I meditate in the light of the midnight sun. And sometimes I wonder if they was the awful things I done. As I sit and the parson talks, expounding of the law, I often think of poor old Bill and how hard he was to solve. And that's the saga ballad of Blasphemous Bill. Morning.
I thought you was reading 1212 and the Vorpal blade went snicky snack.
If I had it, I would. I don't have it laying here. Well, how's Wyoming? Guess who's here today?
Who's here today? Ian?
Ian is here today.
Where's Mike?
He ain't here. Hey, Cherie, good morning. That's who I missed while I was
told you.
Yeah, well, I told him, I said, we're going to see. And I told him if you made it in, you were going to probably have a comment. He said you might be on to something. I mean, that's almost like saying that's the truth, but I can't hear him speak, so I don't know if he says A or, what else did
he only says that when he's north of the border.
Good point.
It's part of the cover.
Part of the cover. I can neither confirm nor deny. Hey, John. Good morning,
John. Good morning, Sheree. Good morning, everybody. I can't see the whole list. Carol, Tina.
Carol's here. Tina's here.
Brenda.
Chuck is still in bed. He's still recuperating. Oh. So did anybody get any antelope this week?
No.
Just sage chickens. I think that's what I saw.
We saw sage chickens. We didn't hunt them. That season wasn't open yet.
Oh, I thought I saw the boys with one.
Oh, no, those were blue grouse.
Oh, well, blue grouse. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Man, those are pretty good sized blue grouse.
Yeah, they're bigger than a rough grouse. So.
Oh, true. John says his little brother's on his way back to Tennessee today. Well, I bet he can't wait to get back to America. It's like the old man I know. I've told
John, does he sound like he's from Tennessee now, or does he
still sound like he's
from Jersey?
Actually, I've spoken to John. John don't sound like
he don't sound like he's from Jersey.
No.
It's jackalope season. You're darn tootin', John. It's always jackalope season.
True. There is no. I mean, it's an open season, so to speak.
We actually have quite a few jacks right now, and it's good to see bunnies are back. They've been down since 16, 17 winter, and we got cottontails and we got jackrabbits and jackalopes and my grandson and I spent a long time day before yesterday picking up jackalope poop and looking at what was inside of it.
Oh boy, I bet his mama loved that.
Nah, it's just dried old grass. It don't matter.
Well, it don't matter, no. Or there's snipe up there.
What she don't know when we're out in the field won't hurt her.
Yeah, but sometimes it'd be fun to tell her.
Him eating powdered donuts. He don't ever get them at home.
I hope you guys saw a picture of that kid with the white powdered donut stuffed in his face. He was John. I don't think that's true at all.
Good morning, Dave.
Hey, Dave. Good morning. Space Mountain Dave Contrell is with us. Mark, you don't sound like you've got an accent. Do I sound like I've got an accent?
We have perfectly normal accents.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we just talk like regular folk.
Like we just talk normal.
Just like regular folk.
It's like regular folk. Oh my goodness. Oh, kind of reminds me of the Jerry Clower and the monkey story every time you say that.
I ain't seen him. I ain't putting my dog on that thing. He looks too much
like folk.
Too much like folks. I ain't hunting my dog with that trashy thing.
Yeah, that's more like it. Oh my goodness, what a funny man he could.
What a funny man he was. Yep. If he was, from regular country.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, I wonder if other people thought he was funny. But he went on to he got more famous and was on the Grand Ole Opry and stuff, where he told his stories for a much more diversified crowd, I would say.
Yeah.
Again, if you're at the Grand Ole Opry, you're probably not too diversified. But I'll take that back because I
bet they're way more diversified than.
Yeah, they
I bet most locals don't ever go anywhere near it. But
well, it depends. We used to go occasionally. We'd get tickets and go. I mean, somehow I think I don't know if we ever paid for tickets. We used to get tickets through work when nobody. I think work had a couple of tips, like 3 or 4 tickets that they kept for pilots. And sometimes there was just nobody. We didn't have anybody to give them to, and they'd let somebody use them. And because they were running, we had them all the time. And it could be hard to get into the Grand Ole Opry because sometimes they were really sold out during touristy season. They get pretty packed, which is why I was going to say, yeah, they probably are pretty diversified because there's a lot of tourists in there. And
yeah.
That was one thing people always went to Nashville for. Now people go to Nashville just because it's Nashville, but people used to go to Nashville to either legislate or go to the Grand Ole Opry. That was pretty much it.
I have 5 crows and 6 magpies underneath my bird feeders right now.
Anybody else or just them?
And I think they're probably going to lick the platter clean. Would be my guess.
But Tina says, if you don't have an accent, some kind of accent, I can't trust what you're saying. So in other words, I think what you're trying to say is if we're not real, then you don't believe anything else we're telling you.
Yeah,
I can promise you that we're as real as it gets.
I mean, look at that trophy beard he's sporting right
Yeah, well, I mean, look at that.
now.
And that's real, buddy.
Are you going all the way full, like down to your where you can tuck it into your belt?
That'd be handy. I have to tuck it in my shirt sometimes now to keep it out from getting too much gravy and biscuits in it.
Because if you read The Hobbit, them boys could tuck their beards into their belt.
I don't know, maybe. Here's what I have just one of the many things I've discovered as it's gotten longer is that it does get caught in some really strange places occasionally.
Well, you're to the fork it and braid it stage now, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I've been thinking about having Brenda braid it for me. I still want to know how the pirates used to get, smoking brands in their beer.
I just read a deal about Blackbird yesterday.
Oh yeah,
and they talked about those. They were like rope. They were rope, some kind of. They just braided them right into their hair, and they were rope, and they had salted them just a little bit with some gunpowder, and made a wick basically. And they'd light those, and then let's go attack that ship over there.
Huh?
They were totally for psychological warfare.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it was to make them look even scarier.
Right. And he looked like the devil incarnate when he had all that going on. I'll guarantee you.
Absolutely. We got another part of the discussion I cannot let pass without addressing here. Carol says that everybody in here has an accent except Dave, and he talks regular Michigan. And Dave says that he bets that Carol don't have an accent either. Now that's, down in some parts of the South, people would say that's like a Yankee conspiracy to somehow say, they talk different than the rest of us. I've been thinking about that, John. I really have, but I felt like it wasn't long enough, but I think it probably would.
It's getting there, buddy.
Yeah, I've told you the story about that.
Just split it in the middle and fork it, and then braid it both sides, and then you can.
They call that
you can go to pillaging and cool things like that.
There used to be this old guy. I don't know if I probably told this before. I told you, I'm sure, but there used to be this old guy that used to show up at motorcycle rallies in like Daytona, where there's thousands of bikers, and at least 3/4 of them are all on a Harley. But you could always tell you could kind of tell the Harley guys that trailered in or any other motorcycle, but
and they had spray and ride all over their body. You too can look like you drove all the way across the country.
I talk about spray and ride sometimes. This guy had a beard about like mine, and he came in, and his beard was like this, where he'd been blowing around his head.
Yeah.
And blowing like this, and it was permanent like that. I mean, it was just like that all the time. So, I mean, that guy was real. He rode a lot, and he rode far, and because that beard was permanently affixed out to both sides of his head. It was the coolest thing. I didn't know his name, or I never met him, but I saw him a lot, and you always recognized him because he had that beard.
My cousin that was a Hell's Angel, he come into my grandpa's funeral on his motorcycle. He'd been, clear across the country because I think he was cowboying in Arizona or Hell's Angel in Arizona or something. And he had that beard going, that big old beard going, and it was all forked and everything. And I think he probably encouraged that. and he had his cut on and no shirt, just his cut, and it was his two sisters like tackled him basically and took a whole big old ginormous can of Right Guard and sprayed him down. Because you couldn't be anywhere around him when he
hadn't had a shower in a bit. That's what you're saying.
He'd been on the road. He'd been on the road for a while. And I can remember his little sister, who's a tiny little woman, like grabbing him by the arm, and his larger sister like taking the can and like just. I think they used a whole can, those old like 1970s cans of Right Guard.
I've met guys like that plenty of times.
We've been to Rendezvous with a lot of guys like that.
That's true. We have. I'm glad some of those stories don't come much.
Hundreds of guys like that.
Well, I forget. Kay, good morning. Kay Atwood is with us.
Smell-o-vision. Yeah, that would have been a bad one.
Yeah, that would have been a bad thing.
Tina said her brother was like that, and I've been accused of that during hunting season. So, I guess
but it's short periods. So some of those people, it's sort of a permanent thing. There were people at Rendezvous. I mean, not Rendezvous, but at Friendship and places like that. At times, it looked like they maybe had gone quite some time to get the authenticity, but correct. I'm not sure. You remember that guy?
I can't believe that like a white trapper or a native didn't like every time he got like near the water, he took him a bath. I mean, I think they did that religiously.
I would think so, or at least the sweat.
It might be colder than dang it, but you still broke through the ice and took you back, took a little swim.
Here I'm gonna pull from our collective memories here for a minute.
You said, do you remember a guy?
Well, no, I was gonna that time already. There was
You've already lost that one.
No, I'd almost moved on, but there was a guy at Friendship, he was at Friendship, who was like that, who just kind of showed up by himself, and he usually slept in like under a piece of canvas almost. It was a lean-to, but it wasn't much of one, and he was like that. He looked like he hadn't had a shower in a month of Sundays. And he just looked like an old greasy trapper, like he'd been wallowing in bear grease or something for the last 10 years. And I think turns out that guy was like a dentist or something.
He was a dentist or a doctor or something. I remember that guy.
And he went to great lengths to get authentic as he could get.
And then
I was going to tell you, do you remember there was a time when we were camping, we were hunting up in Dix Creek, and it was colder than it was colder than hell. And I think you did it. You and I were up there for a week.
We went down there and got in the creek and took a bath.
We got down there in that creek, and it
had ice hanging off all the plants.
The only reason it wasn't frozen was because it was running.
It ran too hard for freezing.
And I remember pouring a bucket of that over my head to wash my hair because and it you talk about brain freeze. Now that was like instant brain freeze. Oh God, that was cold.
And your hair just like turned into these spiky points.
Hey, Rhonda's here today. Rhonda, haven't seen you in a while.
And good morning.
She had to chase the cat over here. He said she had a cousin. Had an uncle and a cousin who ran gas lines that always had an interesting smell. I bet the rotten eggs, I bet, if they ran
Yeah.
gas lines all the time. Oh me, let's see who else is. Rhonda, we hadn't seen you in ages. Good to see you.
We got a full house today.
Yeah, I'm well almost. Oh, look there, Maple Bacon has showed up.
He's here. Is he in here too?
Well, I don't know if Ian's still.
Maybe we can dispel. I mean, there he is.
Well, but
He just said he'd stuck his head in a snowbank before, and that was the worst instant headache he ever had.
I believe you. I absolutely believe you.
We have a valley up here east of Yellowstone, up by Thermopolis, Wyoming, where there's a lot of hot springs. It was Chief Washaki's favorite place. There's just all these hot springs, and you can go up there and stay in a motel, and they'll have hot spring in the backyard, kind of a deal. And we have one we go to pretty frequently, and you get in the hot spring and toast yourself, and then you jump out into the snowbank and roll around in the snow, and then you jump back in the hot spring, and you just keep doing that. And what a grand way to live!
Like a sauna. Oops!
I just had a crow just like wham right into. Is that
what that was?
That's what that was.
Oh my goodness! Yeah. Now, Mike, here's the thing.
And Mike said he's here, and Ian's here at the same time.
But now Diana isn't here. Diana could be operating the other device that sounds
the other device.
Maybe she's filling in here while you're being Maple Bacon right now.
And Ian, that is the grandest thing on the planet. And that, when it's deep winter and you're in that, I don't know how hot the water is, but it's pretty hard to stay in there too long. And then you just jump out and roll around the snowdrift. It's good. It makes me feel peppy.
Yeah, well, they will do that for a fact. Okay, Rhonda, I didn't know you graduated from anything, so congratulations. But what? Tell us about it for those of us who haven't seen you. All right, then maybe I'm the only one in here that hasn't. I don't know. Seems like Tina and Carol all know about it. John said he learned to ski at
Medicine Bow Ski Resort and stuck his head in the snow many times.
You got to be careful when you're skiing and sticking your head in the snow that you don't hit a tree back there.
That is a skill that I haven't acquired. I mean, I can fight my way through it if I have to. Cross country's better than downhill stuff, but I like snowshoes. I can just walk.
I need to try that just because I never have. I never lived anywhere where I needed snowshoes. I mean, you might need them for a week, a year.
Well, the snow has to be right for it too, because sometimes you can still sink 18 inches with a snowshoe on your foot, and that's not very much fun at all.
Getting it back out's not going to be any fun.
Yeah, it'll wear you out. You'll walk 50 yards and be done. But when the snow's good, when you got to go out and feed your chickens over the drifts,
climb the mountain,
climb Mount Suribachi to get your chickens every day, you need a snowshoe sometimes.
Oh, mercy. Well, I've seen a picture of you snowshoeing over the mountain to feed your chickens at least once.
That drift was 15 foot high before the winter was done.
Well, it was high as the roof of the building, looked to me like.
Yeah, it was as high as a barn.
Dave is just, he don't need no snow. I don't need snow.
Yeah, so Ian was like it's like snow shoveling with your feet, and that's exactly what it's like if the snow's the wrong kind.
Well, that's true. Case
And
of snow.
The Eskimos had it right. There's a lot of different kinds of snow.
Well, that's true. They have, what, 100 names for snow or something, supposedly.
Yeah, because it's true. It's some of it's good snow, and some of it's really bad snow.
And I hadn't skied since
10 years.
probably not. No, hell no. Excuse me. Probably since 1992, maybe 1991. Yeah, I miss snow. I miss snow too, Rhonda. We don't get any much anymore. And Maple Bacon says he don't miss it at all. Well, that's because you got it all up there to yourself.
And Carol says that she doesn't mind as long as she's inside and drinking hot chocolate.
And just washing it through the window. Dave says he'd take sand snow any day. And Disney, you like Disney snow, Dave? It's either white painted concrete that looks like snow, or snow snoop or snope they call it. Artificial snow made with using soap and something else to make it look. It looks like snow.
People that miss snow aren't right in the head.
Well, it could be.
My youngest son-in-law called me 3 days ago and said it was snowing at work, which is about 20 miles from here. So
Yeah.
it's already here.
I got to pause a minute here and address this question, this statement that Ian has made, because I'm thinking what he's trying. I'm not sure, but he may be saying that I'm a lot older than him. I think there's probably a respectful sort of, hey, grandpa kind of comment there. I'm not sure.
And Tina's like, that's she has to deal with it every year. Mike has to deal with it every year. I have to deal with it every year. But I mean, we live where we live on purpose. So
that's true. But it used to snow here, and I liked it when it snowed here. I don't know. We're a little higher. Maybe we'll get a little bit more snow this year.
Maybe you'll have some now.
Ian, good comeback, Ian. I'll write you. Make sure I write you that down for any special awards I happen to give out anytime soon. He's come up with two. I was telling about my tumble down the driveway the other day, and the fact that it was probably enhanced by the sacks of mulch that we had laying there by the door. And Ian came up with, well, I bet that was to mulch who was tall.
He's not right in the head. He'd rather be left. But you don't miss snow, Mike.
No, he don't miss it at all when it's gone.
I don't miss it either. I get to see plenty of it.
Well, Tina, if it snows 3 feet, I'll tell you what, with the exception of the winter I was in high school, snow 3 feet deep around here still doesn't last very long. So if it snows 3 feet deep, as long as we're provisioned in the house and don't have to go out, I don't care. But then at the same time, I didn't used to care if I had to get out in the snow anyway. I love to drive in the snow. Everybody else hates it, but I used to enjoy it quite a bit. And it was kind of fun to get out in it when hardly anybody else was out on the roads. Now, when there was too many people, it was not good.
Oh, dang, I got bird strikes like crazy this morning.
They're getting aggressive out
Thunk,
there.
ka-thunk.
That sounded maybe more like a minor bird or
That was a good bird if it broke its neck. So
okay.
that was a good one to hit the window if it broke its neck.
Speaking of birds,
We've had a Cooper's hawk here for like 2 weeks. It's been hunting the bad birds.
and he been doing a good job.
He's been doing an exceptional job.
Let me guess that bad birds are probably
English sparrow.
There are you're your English visitors.
Yeah.
Ian is sending a lot. Sending a lot of funny remarks. Wait a minute, I got to catch up here for a minute. This chat's moving fast.
Ian said Ian's like cracking jokes, and it's good to have him back in the room.
It is.
It is great to have him back in the room.
And what is Mike saying? I don't miss it at all. I'd rather have sand between my toes. And all that snow I want is in my drink glass. So we need some sort of exchange program where we can send our snow to Rhonda and Kay this winter.
I'm all for that, Carol. I'd be glad to be a participant in that exchange program.
It's not a bad idea. If you can figure out a way to box that stuff up and keep it fairly fluffy and it don't melt, I bet there's a lot of people in Florida that you could send it to, a box or two a year anyway. It could be like the Snow of the Month Club.
I look out on the west side of my property here, and there are drifts that, they form in December and they don't go away till the following May. I'd love to box those up and send them.
This year, we have drift from Wyoming, along with some special snow from Great Lake snow from Michigan.
From Michigan, that'd be, yep.
Dave says snow is illegal down there. I guess you have to be careful shipping it across state lines.
You reckon it ever has snowed down there?
Yeah, it has. I've talked to people that remember snow down there, but it never lasts, and it really don't stick to anything. And it's only people I know that remember it are about my age. I mean, it seems like there's not. I don't know when the last snow was. Dave said
was living in El Paso, and they were getting it every now and again. They'd get a little.
How high is it in El Paso, though?
It's about, I don't remember the elevation. It's higher than people think it is.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking.
It's probably 4,000 or 5,000 feet there.
So that makes some difference. I mean,
yeah.
Even though it's desert country.
And then that, all that Sierra Madre country down in Mexico, they get snow every year. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't think it would snow down there. Well, speaking of that, let me pull up today's topic. Well,
What is today's topic?
Oh, did you not get? Well, I guess I didn't send.
I must not have read an email or something.
We're going to talk a little bit about the Mound Builders today.
Oh, cool.
I thought you'd like that.
That's a good one.
So let me see if I can.
What do you mean? What do you mean that, like, okay, whatever you say? When I found this, I found this Clovis point is obviously a Colby Mammoth Clovis guy.
Yeah,
that's kind of how it's built, but it was made out of a Sloan's horse liniment bottle. The bottom, it says right on it.
Well, I couldn't read
And
it. I thought
I
there was
said,
something.
I said, a Colby man met up with a Sloan's horse liniment gal, and they had a baby
Oh, okay. I guess I
on
could read.
the banks of Craven Creek. My buddy, that was where his people homesteaded. I picked this piece of glass up at his grandmommy's homestead and made him this point. And I thought he'd like that. But
I like it. That's cool. Can you do modern other glass that way, or is it just
no, if it's thick enough.
if it's thick enough, it'll flake? Okay.
Yeah. So if I take like a current beer bottle or a whiskey bottle or something that's got a heavy bottom in it, you take a nail, you drop it down in there, and you put your thumb over the neck of that thing, and you shake it real hard. Put a big nail, like a 10 penny or something, and whack it. It'll pop the whole bottom of that bottle out.
Well, and I've never tried that.
And that's about the only part that's usable for stone points anyway. And it works just exactly like obsidian. So,
Wow, that's cool. I never thought about that. Well,
yeah,
first,
I was gonna make a certain kind of point for him, and it got to where it was like working out, and it just kind of evolved into a Clovis point. I was gonna make a little Scotch bluff for him, and I'm like, I wonder if I can flute that, and I don't think you can see it. It's clear glass.
Yeah,
it's hard to see, but it's fluted on both sides, and
I thought that was really cool.
it's yeah, it worked out nice, and it was that old thick, old heavy bottom, and I picked up a brown piece that's even thicker.
Oh,
I don't know if you can see that or not.
well, I can see it.
And I was working on that. I was trying to start shaping that, and I hit it too hard with a rock and busted it. So I had to quit.
That's why they made so many. That's why we still find so many broken points and stuff in the world.
Yeah.
And chips and flakes. I got to address this. Tina, think about, let's work on it. Don't be quite so negative. What about a box of snow? Oh, I know, I got it. How about if we had our own cardboard boxes built and inside of them had a mountain scene and snowy peaks, and when you got it, you opened the box up and it was perforated, and you could open it up and set it up like a diorama in your window maybe, and you could look at it. Wouldn't that make it a little bit more mountainy or something? Think about this. There's got to be a way.
We're having one of them kind of days.
Look here.
And then John said, "That's not for eating. It's just for looking through."
I know where that came from. Oh my goodness!
Perhaps one of the greatest cinematic
feats of all time,
pieces of art ever made.
Yep.
Oh my God, we're going to Mounds.
Yes, we are.
I'll be right back. I swear to God.
Okay. I gotta pull this up so I can see my notes if I have any. Whoop. While he's gone, we'll just I'll get the preliminaries out of the way. But this first slide though has a thing. It says watch and break, and it's important, and it is important. And I never heard of it till this weekend. But do all that. Oh, I can't. What am I doing here? Why is nothing happening? There it goes. Do all the legwork here, folks. hit that button. If you please hit the button.
Like and subscribe and all that cool stuff.
All that stuff. Leave comments. If you enjoy the topics, say so. If you don't, say so. And if you got another idea, say so. I got a big list.
We'll probably just blow you off and do what we want to do.
Yeah, but it's still, they probably won't pay no attention. But
so did I tell you about the birthday day before yesterday? I meant to send you an email, maybe I didn't, or text.
No, I don't think so.
Well, it was yeah, I did, and you responded. Actually, it was
okay. Remind me.
It was Samuel Johnson's birthday.
Oh, yes.
And I was going to celebrate at the Contrafibularity.
Okay, anybody else?
I was spasmodic about it.
Yeah, you were. You were all spasmodic. Johnny, anybody in here ever know where that came from? That is some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen. I have to admit.
You gotta be a Rowan Atkinson fan to know what the heck I'm talking about.
And maybe dug through a little British TV in your life, so you came across it, because I had never until you told me about it. So anyway, I fell into a rabbit hole here before I got started this week about things that might have happened today, because this is my new mentioning on the show. Last week I just had a couple of birthdays, but this week I have some other cool things, like, for example, events in history. 1776, part of New York City is burned shortly after being occupied by the British forces. So I'm wondering, did they burn part of it, or did the Americans burn it as they left and left it to the Brits? I don't know. And on this day in 1780, Benedict Arnold gave the British the plans for West Point, which is what has endeared him in our history forever as the greatest turncoat trader ever been.
Yep, that's his name equals trader.
Absolutely. And it was today that in 1780 that
he was such a great leader of men for us for years, and then somehow he got taken to the dark side.
Yeah, well, he felt like he got very slighted. He didn't think he got promotions, and then he met a woman. So there you go. That's the whole.
Always the same deal every time.
It's always the same. Okay, in 1938, the Great Hurricane of 1938 made landfall in New York, Long Island, and the death toll was 500 to 700 people. Now, I thought that was. I remember seeing that. I think. And probably some show about hurricanes on the Weather Channel or something in my life, but I didn't realize that that many people died. So that was I thought that was
that's a pretty big hit.
Pretty big hit for that far north by a hurricane. And then these next two things, to me, had a what's the right word? Somehow in history, they're connected. The Boeing B-29 Super Fortress made its maiden flight on this day in 1942. The Boeing B-29 was famous in history for dropping the 2 atomic bombs that were dropped on Japan. Which brings me to the next one, which is the North American XB-70 Valkyrie, which was supposed to be a supersonic bomber for that purpose, to carry nuclear weapons to Russia or wherever at that time. So there was a connection there. Both of those airplanes flew on this day, separate years, 42 years apart, 22 years apart, excuse me. Do my math here. Math is hard sometimes. Anyway, and they both had to do with the atomic bomb and that sort of thing. I thought that was somewhat poetic or coinky dink that they both happened on the same day. Birthdays in history. Louis Joliet, the famous Canadian explorer. This was his birthday. He was born in 1645.
Okay, we have to pause just for 1 second.
Okay.
Ian, the series is called Blackadder.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
And I think it's the 3rd season where he's hanging out with who was George the witch.
Oh,
Who was king of England when he was a fool? They considered him a fool. Who was the king of England when they lost the revolution to the Americans?
George the Third.
The third. So Rowan Atkinson is George the Third's butler, basically,
yeah.
and George the Third is a patron of Dr. Samuel Johnson, who wrote the first English dictionary. And Rowan Atkinson is just like making up words and throwing them out there. And he's like, well, you don't, that's a common phrase down our way.
They're all
a common term, because he said he had every word of the English language in the book. So I would highly encourage you to watch that entire series. But Blackadder,
like
pretty a snake, like black venomous viper snake, adder.
So also on this day, Mr. H.G. Wells was born. Historian, novelist, science fiction genius, maybe some would say. That's the right guy. Preston Tucker was born on this day. As obscure as that may sound, he's the guy that invented the Tucker automobile, which there was a movie about a few years ago. Well, probably 40 years ago. And but he was famous. The car was famous for being revolutionary in many ways for the automobile industry back then. It was a safety car. It had all these modern new things on it, and he failed. I mean, the company failed, and many people maybe to this day, used to say that the big three, the GM, Chrysler, Ford people, all ran him out of business because he was too much competition. Well, I think he went to his grave saying the same thing. They got better gas mileage than they did. It was safer. This was back when gas mileage didn't matter. I think he made that thing in the 40s. And then another one, 1912, on this day, Chuck Jones was born. And most of y'all know, but since we've talked about this before, he was an animator, producer, screenwriter, and voice actor for many of the cartoon characters that Mark and I grew up loving and imitating, I'm sure. He was in on Looney Tunes and just a whole bunch of stuff. So that was, I thought that was pretty cool. And I went ahead and threw in famous deaths, even though that's, maybe kind of dark. But 19 BC, Virgil, the Roman poet, died. And he was born in 70 BC, so do that math. Backwards.
He was 89. No.
He
wasn't.
61.
He was 61.
61. That's still pretty good, I'm thinking, maybe.
Not if you're 61.
True. Ian says, don't watch Looney Tunes again. Well, we're not going to get in trouble, Ian. I promise we're not going to do that. The Walter Scott, the guy that he was a playwright, a novelist, and poet, but he wrote Ivanhoe and, oh Lord, I had a whole list of things. Now I can't remember what all he wrote. And I've lost there it is. I said if I made any notes. Nope, no notes. Chief Joseph died on this day in 1904. Chief Joseph was not the last chief, but a famous chief of the Shoshone who fought Nez Perce, excuse me, sorry, got ahead of myself there. Who led his people off into the mountains and just did not want to surrender. And he finally just couldn't go any further because his people were starving to death. It was the middle of the winter, and he was famous for the saying, "As I will fight no more forever," was something he said or promised his people or whatever. So Chief Joseph, Harry Carey, American actor, director, producer, screenwriter, and cowboy, died on this day in 1947, which I didn't realize that he died that early. Of course, then his son came along, so the lines probably kind of blurred there. And another famous cowboy slash comedian, I guess, actor, Walter Brennan, was born today or died today, excuse me, in 1974. And I remember that one. There were back then, somebody like that died. I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I mean, we watched him all the time. But yeah, and he was 80, so he did pretty good, I guess. And also today is the autumnal equinox in the northern hemisphere, which I believe all of us live in. And it's the vernal equinox in the southern hemisphere, which makes sense if you summer and winter kind of things. So today, oops, I gotta make sure I do it over here, don't I? We're going to talk a little bit about some of the mound building cultures. There was no particular tribe or group of people that were mound builders. There was many cultures or groups of people over several thousand years actually that were considered mound builders. And I'm just going to talk about North America, but a lot of these or some of these groups, they're pretty sure now came out of South America, which makes a lot of sense. The Mayans supposedly just kind of disappeared off the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico at some point. Most likely, they were run north by the Aztecs or the Incas or some group that ran them off, and they moved up here. And many people now think, and there's a lot of work being done in some areas of Georgia, I believe, and maybe Mississippi, Alabama, where they're doing some digging and some archaeological work where they're finding connections to that, which I think is pretty fascinating. I think, Mark, you talked about that before, or maybe you and I did, but and I know
all those like Natchez people and all those people in Mississippi and Louisiana and Alabama that were mound builders, and all the way up to Cahokia in Illinois. There's pretty strong evidence that those people were Mayans. And Mayans are still in the Yucatan. There's still plenty of Mayans there. Their culture changed from that.
Yeah, exactly.
That beautiful mound building, not even mounds. I mean, they built actual pyramids.
They built pyramids, yeah. And the thing most people don't, I mean, maybe everybody here does, but there's a lot of people that don't realize that these mounds and these temples, the ones in Mexico and in South America, were built long before the Egyptians figured out how to build their pyramids. So, Mike, if you're still here, or Ian, you might think about ancient aliens bringing them down, engineering plans to build such fantastic things. But the Mayans were famous for accuracy of their calendars and their mathematics. I mean, we just think we're civilized. I mean, I don't know that they weren't way ahead of us. And I know you guys can't see a lot of this, but I just wanted to put this. You okay?
I'm good. We got the Epizootie, man.
Okay.
We can't kick the Epizootie.
So this kind of gives you an idea just where some of these different groups were. And I'll be honest, I didn't realize they got all the way up to the Great Lakes. Certain groups, past, that's right, but Cahokia or whatever. I didn't realize they got up past that. I mean, that was, but they're not as big as groups maybe as there were in some of the southern areas, but they were still there. And let me see here. I made some notes. Let me make sure I don't miss anything.
You don't have. Where's the Hopewells? Where's the Adinas?
Well, the Hopewells and the Adinas are in that Fort Ancient area, and I have them on another map, so bear with. I have them. I just don't have them here.
Got it.
In fact, if I finished reading my notes, a lot of this stuff happened over at least a 5,000 year period. The Mound Builder culture spanned the period of roughly 3,500 BCE. For example, Watson Break, which they think is the oldest one currently considered the oldest one, which is in Louisiana or Mississippi. I'll tell you in a minute. I've got that in my other notes. To about the 16th century CE, so closer to our time, and included the Archaic period and the Woodland period and the Hopewell cultures, or Adian and Hopewell culture period, the Caloosahatchee. All that was part of the Mississippian period, I think. Or maybe they were Woodland, and then the Mississippian area, and all those are considered mound builders, so they kind of get lumped together. Geographically, the cultures were present in the region of the Great Lakes, the Ohio River Valley, Florida, and the Mississippi Valley and its tributary waters, which, like I said, amazes me because I knew they were in the South along the rivers and things. If you look at the maps, almost all the villages you see are cities, complex, how to put that, the cultural centers of the different groups, which could be quite large, were almost always along a river or near the alluvial plain where they would have had all these people grew crops. That was one of the main things about them. They grew corn, they were cultivators, and that allowed them to be less transient, establish culture, or build these villages, these temples. I mean, it made a huge difference from having to wander every day hunting nuts and berries and trying to kill something.
Yeah, they talked about that, like trying to find a deer anywhere around one of these big cultural centers was impossible.
No, I'm sure it was.
They were eating corns and beans and squash, and they had people that hunted that were living far, far afield and bringing meat to these cultural centers like Cahokia. I mean, there were thousands of people living there.
Thousands of people that lived in these places, and they had to have you have to assume, or they know, that they had markets and areas where they traded and things like that, hides, meat, fish, other food, that sort of thing. I mean, they were quite advanced. And you mentioned the Hopewell mark, this map, you should be seeing it on the left, the yellow part, which I know you can't see that well. Those are Hopewell cultures of various groups: Miller Hopewell, Marksville Hopewell, Porter Hopewell, Armstrong Hopewell, which is up in the Ohio Hopewell, and there's different places up there, like there's Adena Park, and I think that's in Ohio. I'm not sure. It may be down around Dayton or Cincinnati, or actually might be in northern Kentucky, that one, or right along the river. And then another important thing about some of these groups were where they settled in relation to the frost line, or what was kind of called, some people call the frost line. So it was an area where at least 200 days a year were frost free, which obviously would have promoted, more agriculture. Kind of like down in Dave's country now in Florida. I'm pretty sure they have at least 200 days a year frost free. And this
Morning,
is
Chuck. He's up and joined
hey,
the
they went the wrong way. This is a artist rendition of Watson Break in Louisiana. Again, they think this is currently, at least, they think this is the oldest of the mound builder civilizations that they've run into, and you can see they're near a big large river. I can't remember exactly. I don't know if that's the Mississippi or a tributary, but then even a smaller river that runs through that whole floodplain there, which I'm sure would have been full of squash, beans, and corn and that sort of thing. Um, long time ago. And let me see, did I jump track? No, this is all stuff that they've dug out, or not dug, but the archaeologists have pulled up. And let me make sure didn't get this slide in the wrong place.
That looks like my family's mound. Is that a photo of the mound just north of Mom and Dad's house?
No, it's not. But I wanted to talk about that. I mean, this is stuff from Watson Break, and these are the points they found. And Mark, you can correct, but I think these are archaic period. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Adena and people, but I think are these Evans points. Did they call? I'm trying to remember what they call these. I read about it, and I don't remember now. But this type of point was unique for a certain period of time.
Where they were doing that extra notching on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the name of that point, but
and the upper corner, and I'll talk about both of these mounds in just a minute. But this top corner, right hand corner, upper, these balls and cubes and brick like pieces were just that. They found these in some of these mounds in this area, and I guess you could. I mean, they were making bricks and things, is what it amounts to. And that's not got a really good size reference, or not, at least not one you guys can see. But they found a lot of this kind of material there. So, I mean, it was somebody here or nearby was basically firing brick and hardening stone and using it, or, mud and dirt, mixing it up with whatever and making bricks that they've created this. Now, the two things to notice here, that whole area on the upper left might very well have looked like the lower right for a long time when people started, when Europeans at least started moving into these places. A lot of them were covered with timber. They'd grown up, and you didn't see the mounds. If you didn't know that was a mound, it just looked like a hummock, a hill, for whatever reason. But then they went in a lot of these areas. The reason they discovered these large cities, well, they went in and timbered it, or they went in to cultivate it, and they started uncovering it. And lo and behold, they found what's in the upper left-hand corner. And that happened in a lot of places. Cahokia, Watson Break, all these places, that kind of stuff happened. Let's see, that's that bottom point. I can read that scale on of course, it's in centimeters, the measurement of scientists. 1, 2, 3. I don't know if black and white is 1 centimeter or each block is a centimeter, but they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 centimeters would be several inches. I can't.
5 inches.
5 inch. Well, okay, yeah, about 5 inches.
2.54 centimeters per inch.
Per inch, yeah. So anyway, this is the kind, and these are the kind of things they found. This is Poverty Point.
That's a big deal.
It's a big deal, and that's
in Mississippi.
It's kind of split. They actually listed here is in Louisiana.
Oh, it's half and
Oh,
it's right on the river.
yeah, it's right on the river, and which a lot of these are kind of straddling main rivers, and I got confused about. I thought some of them were on the other side too. Even as reading about them, I thought that. And these are all points down there at the bottom that they have found in this area. And again, look, these points are really different than the ones we just looked at. Um, Different styles altogether, actually. And Mark, you can speak to
Yeah,
that
we
better
would
than I
call
can.
those most of the part of those Adena points. The ones with the rounded stem would be Adena points, and um,
Which would be up. Damn it! Excuse me. Pardon my language.
and
Uh,
yeah, so
like
that pile of light colored points in the middle there would be most of those are Adenas.
yeah. And then
There,
over here you
there's
got
a
some
great
other.
big dovetail over there on the other side of the photo, kind of in that gray stone. Um, that's
Left or right?
that's quite on the well, my right.
Yeah, okay. All right, too. In this case.
Yeah, there's a big deep notched point there that part of the base is broke on it, but that looks like a big dovetail, which would have been contemporary with those Adenas, maybe a little earlier, Hopewelly kind of people.
Well, what this shows me is they were there long enough that point making evolved.
Yeah, and everywhere you go, it's like that. I mean, if you're finding stone points, you might be find like a Clovis point that's 13,000 years old or something, and you might find a Dalton point there too that's much younger, but not a lot younger, 10,000 years. And then, it just depends on what layer of soil you're in, if it hasn't eroded. That's pretty cool. They were there a long time.
Yeah, I went back and found why I wasn't seeing my notes. Now I got them here. So like those were called Evans points at the back there, and this one's
Those notch points were Evans points.
yeah. That's what. Well, at least that's what they were calling them in my research. Now
Right.
that could be wrong, but that's what they're referring to them as. So anyway, we'll go to the next one, and this is one of those mounds. And I mean, I put this picture in there along with several others. This is at Poverty Point. So let me go backwards for a minute again. I suspect that this is up in. I don't know what you guys see. If you can see my cursor there, do you see it over here?
I see it there.
This mound may be this big one in the back.
Yeah.
So and the reason I put this in this picture gives you a pretty good idea of just how tall this mound is. I mean, some of these things rose up over 100 feet above the flat, and
And they
sometimes
built structures on top of them.
yeah, and then they built stuff on top, which made them even higher.
And that's where the king or queen or whoever lived.
Right. And if you look, once as they have discovered when they've excavated, explored these mounds, they have found multiple layers in these things where they grew over the years. I think I've got a picture of that in a minute. Okay, back to that picture. I'm sorry, I got two things going on here. Why is that? That didn't used to be such a problem. I don't know why it is today. But anyway, and here's another one. This is the Winterville site. I think this is Mississippi. Let me double check here. Washington County, Mississippi. Yeah, north of Greenville, Mississippi. Pretty much along the river, the Mississippi. Has a major earthwork monuments, including some that were 12 large platforms and cleared and filled plazas. They think this was maybe between 12 to 1400, the lower Yazoo Basin.
Well, and this is where they found things that really connect the Yucatan with this country.
Right.
I mean, they were playing the exact same games, chunky, and, you know, they did all those carvings that were like, well, that's like a Mayan guy, you know, like effigy pipes and things like
Yeah.
that. It looked just like Mayan effigy pipes. And
Or very, very similar, if not exactly. And this is just another part of that, a different angle. Obviously, it's been cleaned up now, but this is a park. A lot of these famous area sites have been preserved, protected, cleaned. I mean, I say cleaned up. That's a bad word, but not. I mean, not a good use of that word, because they've been left open so you can see kind of how they may have looked when they were living here to some degree. But you can see the mounds, and this one shows this front mound. There's a large mound in the back, and then a frontal mound. You can tell it's kind of undulating there. It's probably in a shape. I'm not sure about that, but it looks like it. And here's a mask that they have dug up there at Winterville, at the Winterville site. And then I don't think this one's Winterville, but it might be. No, Moundville in Alabama. I mean, look at the size of that. There's quite a large number of people living here, and there's some really tall. I hate to almost say mounds. Some of these are more pyramid-like. Again, Mayan looking, and I mean, they're just huge, and most of them have one major similarity. There's usually a river. A lot of times there'll be a river along one side of the town. I will call it that for now, because city just doesn't seem appropriate, but it is, I guess. And then on the outside, you'll see some kind of fortification, which tells me that they were they were all kind of ornery and maybe didn't get along so well. But there's a lot of the city that's inside the walls, and then some just on the outside, just like it would have been later. And some of these walls were built. Most of these walls were built out of wood. Some of them were just piled up dirt, and sometimes they were stone, but not as often. And this is also at Moundville, and it gives you an idea of what it looked like. In that drawing, you can see how the river's on the backside, and this palisade runs all the way around it.
We ain't seeing the river or the palisade or all the way around it. We're seeing a dude's face.
Sorry, I got behind again. That one is what I was talking about, and then this one shows, how that goes pretty much all the way around it, and the river's in the back. And but this was the one I was trying to say has more pyramid-like structures. They're on top. They tend to even be on top of mounds. I mean, these guys could see quite far in these areas along the river, especially when you get down in parts of Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, where you're in that floodplain and it's level for miles and miles and miles around on either side of the river, of the Mississippi River. And this sculpture I thought was interesting, because to me this looks very Mayanish.
That is very Mayanish.
And you got rattlesnakes here. Apparently, that they think this is a rattlesnake serpent drawn on this.
Looks like it.
Because looks like rattles up here along
There's his head over there.
Yeah, there's one over here too. I'll tell you something else this one reminds me of. there's a Celtic symbol that I believe is two wolves, or maybe it's two hounds, actually. It's very stylized, but it looks kind of similar. There's a circle, and on two sides of the circle, you'll see the wolves or the dogs, the hounds. Their heads come out on either side, much like these snakes do. And I don't know, they're again similarities. How did that happen?
There ain't no such thing as a bad snake.
Somebody say a bad snake.
Yeah.
I can't read the chat at the moment. So
The caffeinated misfit
oh,
said that we've got the South is full of bad snakes.
South is just full of honor. It's full of snakes that
Some of them are ornery.
They're not. What'd you call them?
Some of them are ornery.
Yeah, some of them are ornery. Okay, and this is a couple of different angles of Moundville. I believe this is still Moundville. Let me see if I got any extra.
Bad equals they will kill you if you.
Oh, well, maybe not. A lot of them actually don't.
That's probably true.
Some of them can, but a lot of them just make you sick and maybe lose parts of your body.
That snake bites you, boy.
But again, you can see how once the land is cleared, Paul, how come that ground out there ain't flat like the rest of it? Well, somebody must have lived here. And you can see all the little mounds scattered about. And this is just two different angles of that, which I also thought was neat. This one in the back, lower, are you guys seeing the same? Yeah, I think you're seeing the same picture.
Yeah.
This back mound that's at an angle has a hut built on top of it. And that's the kind of thing they would do. And then maybe over the next 100 years, this would get flattened out. This hut gets knocked down and they put another one on top of it. Maybe they do that so they can see above the trees or, see a longer distance. I have a picture here in a minute that shows from Cahokia, or I can't ever pronounce that right. You can see the arch. I believe it's the arch at St. Louis. Are you laughing at me or are you laughing at something?
I'm laughing at Ian.
I mean, if any people can respect honor, it may be you too. I'm not ashamed of that.
I'll claim that.
Yeah, I'll claim that. So we finally get to Cahokia here. Oh. And Cahokia was huge. Well, at least by
it was huge.
And by we didn't.
I think we would say it was big, even by today's standards.
Probably we probably would. And this is a good illustration because it shows all the different dwellings inside the palisade, outside the palisade. There's a ball court right in the middle of some sort. There are pyramids, large and small. If you look out along the river on either side, there's cultivated fields. I mean, this was a big deal here. And there's smaller palisades. I just realized out, in different areas around the main one. This was a highly developed and I would have to say designed city.
Yeah, and they were there for quite some time, and then all of a sudden, whether it was drought or too much water or what, something happened, and they went out and became
somebody else,
wandering about, more, nomadic peoples again.
And Cahokia is, they've got it. It's highly developed. I would say they know a lot about it. It's a big historical site now. It's protected, but what I can tell, they've done a really good job of interpreting things for people that come by to see. help them understand, what was really there. So I put that sign up because I thought, well, that's pretty cool. And I like that City of the Sun I think appropriate. Now the drawing in the lower left is an artist's conception of one of the main mounds there, and it was called Monk's Mound. And I didn't read all the details on some of this why things are named. Usually because we found it. This could have been because they thought it was more religious oriented, but chances are Monk was the guy that said, "Hey, over there's a big tall mound," So I get to name it, and because they kind of that's what they seem to me. And it's kind of interesting though. In that drawing, they put a house up on top. This is obviously where somebody in the culture, rich and famous, must have lived up here. And I don't know. It's just, and there's horses down there too. Well, of course, it's a more modern rendition of it, but anyway, it's kind of cool.
I think that was the family, Monk. I think that was
that makes sense.
The family that owned the land.
And here's the next picture I'm going to show you. This is still part of Cahokia, but I thought this was really cool because they have recreated what some people call Woodhenge. So think Stonehenge in England, but Woodhenge in America. And they have figured out that if you line this up right, if you line certain poles up with certain structures like a pyramid over here, mound, that on certain days of the year, guess what? The sun lines up. And
like during the fall equinox.
This was they call this the equinox pole, in fact, and it lines up that mound in the distance there with the sun coming up or going down, whichever way it is. That's Monk's Mound, so that's what that represents. And it's just, I mean, can it all be coincidence?
No. And
it's just pretty cool.
Apparently, we were all talking to each other.
Apparently, we did it sometime or another. So this picture is what I was talking about a minute ago. These mounds are multiple layers of fill and structures. That this picture shows. I don't know why they chose to do it this way, but these squares here represent structures that were there but got covered up to make them higher and to make them grow or to raise them up higher. And this wattle and daub is kind of like almost like an adobe kind of structure, and that they were building, which makes sense too, considering where they were at and the kind of mud they could get, and dry and fire, whatever to create these structures. Lots of steps, ramps up to them, whichever. This one was one that had an intrusive burial, as they call it. So some group came along after these guys had moved on and, buried somebody or something there on the mound. Some of these mounds continue to have importance to the local tribes and people, probably because they'd been handed down because they were related. And, so they were still there. Peoples were still there, and they were still, using them. Probably still knew they lined up with the sun at the right time of the year. But anyway, it's pretty cool stuff. And these are some more pictures of the different mounds. I think that's Monk's also, but I'm not positive.
Well, think about the labor of that.
Oh my gosh, I know.
You were going somewhere and digging
and hauling it in
and filling a basket. You didn't have any livestock that pulled stuff. You were carrying this by hand, basket after basket after basket. and building these things, and it's just incredible to me. And a lot of those like mounds in Ohio, they can still actually see the structure of like how big the basket was every time they did a dump of soil.
Oh yeah.
It was like the size of a number 3 wash tub or whatever. And
How many hundreds and thousands of those?
and thousands. I mean, you just think about the labor of just that.
Yeah, and they had no wheels. They didn't have
Like, why would you do that? Like, you were trying to make a living. They must have been living fairly good.
Yeah, to be able to take time to do this.
Yeah, I mean, you had to have been fed well, and
Probably taken care of in other ways. I mean,
you probably didn't have the Pharaoh out there beating you on your back or something. You were doing this for a whatever reason, religious or whatever.
I'm not going to say that they didn't have use some slave labor. They may very well have. Indian tribes did that amongst themselves. That was not too unusual. Not quite the same as we did it later, but kind of like somewhat like the Egyptians, but not on the scale of the Egyptians that they did later to build their pyramids and things. But yeah, I mean, they're doing this by foot, by hand, and by basket upon basket upon basket upon basket. And some of these mounds, I didn't put any of that in here, but there are huge mounds also that they found in some of these areas along the river and along the coast that are nothing but seashells, clams and oysters, mollusks that they use for food and just piled up or other stuff. Some of them use the pearls or freshwater pearls or maybe even saltwater in some areas. But they've just got these huge piles of shells and broken shells and things that must have taken decades and decades and decades to eat that many and pile them all up in one spot. I mean, it's just amazing. Now, if you look real close here, you will notice that down here in the lower left, there is some sacrificial stuff going on.
Yeah.
They're whacking heads and laying bodies in a hole here. They have uncovered evidence of that, at least at some time period.
Just like with the Mayans and the Aztecs.
Yeah, exactly.
The Aztecs took that like a huge, comparatively, they were
a higher art.
Yeah.
or science or something. I
don't know. They took it to a whole new level, but
it did go on here as well. And you can see, again, this mound on top, the upper corner, basically represents the one that's in the upper right-hand corner drawn. You can see how it is above people's heads. But, I mean, look at the height of that thing relative to the bottom. And you're in a river bottom here. So it's flat, and I don't know what the elevation here is at this spot at river level, but probably close to sea level, a little bit above sea level, obviously, but not a lot. What? Somebody said
Ian's on fine form today.
I can't.
I'm sure glad you're in there, buddy.
And here's just another.
He said later, Mike / me.
Did Mike leave?
Mike had to go, but he said he was going to try to get back.
Okay. Well, here's just another view of that mound or another mound there in the same complex, Cahokia. I've got several of these. The taller one's just, I mean, there you go, a telephone pole of all things to compare it to. And this is from one of the mounds, and you can see where the arch is now, or it's built, and you can still see it from across the river. I don't know exactly how this was set up. If this is a rendition, but this is from one mound across to where the St. Louis Arch is today. Let's see. Let me see if I had any. Yeah, that's just all I said. This is some stuff they dug up out of. Well, I didn't realize I put that same mound in there, but these are what I gathered to be reproductions of some of the copper artwork or decorations, or I don't know what metal. I don't know. Well, I don't know how they used all these things. But like Mark was saying, look at the faces, look at the structure, look at the person represented here. I mean, they're very similar to the.
You could throw that in the Yucatan and it'd be the same artwork.
Yeah, it look just like that, or really close to it. That looks like a parrot's head or some kind of lizard on the far right. As I'm sitting here trying to study it to see what all I see. But I see tail feathers and wings, so I suspect this is some sort of bird, which were usually represented. I mean, much like the phoenix in other cultures, the North American or Western Hemisphere. Well, that's an arbitrary statement. Consider maybe they started here and went east. Maybe the east is the old world. Anyway, and I put this in here. Wow, let me see. Oh, this is going. I'm moving up to Ohio, so this is kind of showing what they call the Fort Ancient peoples, which are a little bit older than, say, the Hopewell or the Adena peoples. But this kind of shows at the different periods of time, which they don't represent here, but these are different periods that show where those groups, hung out or what their territory encompassed. And this is one that's was near where Mark's folks live, actually. The next one. This is the Scioto River, Mark, coming down here on this side.
Yeah.
And this is the Ohio River. And I believe this is Portsmouth.
That's Portsmouth.
And so
there's a big effigy mound there to the west of Portsmouth.
Yeah. So, and this is, Kentucky on the far side, and it just represents a map they created that, I think the next picture is actually the next picture might move on to the Serpent Mound, which is not that far away from where Martin folks live. And this is just showing,
Serpent Mound right there.
Right here, yep. And the creeks that come in. And again, this might not be on the Ohio, but you can see that if this photograph, this image, which is supposed to be created 3D from topographical detail or data points, you can see that, it goes flat into again, you got floodplains or, areas that would be flooded and affected by that, which brings fertilization, crops grow there, just all that stuff. But this Serpent Mound, or is that I think that's the one that's not too far from you guys, or them, not you.
Well, it's about an hour drive from Mom and Dad's to Serpent Mound, and I was just there two years ago, I think, and it's just such a fantastic site. I mean, you just can't believe that they moved that much soil and did all the things they did, and I think, and maybe I'm making this up, that there was one grave in this.
I think I've read that too. I think you're right.
One dude was buried here, and he must have been something.
He must have been some kind of special, yeah. Think about this. Can't move that one. I mean, look at you can see this well from obviously these drawings. And when they put up a tower, this middle right image is, you can see more of it because they built the tower. But I mean, you couldn't really see this until we started flying, till man figured out a way to get up above this and look down upon this image. And they think, and Mark, you're welcome to change this if you know something different now, but they think this was representing swallowing an egg.
That's what I've heard.
And maybe that's, I don't
I
know.
heard that maybe that's where the dude was at.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
That may be something I heard that isn't factual. All I know is that it's pretty special, and it's hundreds of yards long.
Yeah, and I didn't get those measurements, but it's quite big.
As I recall, it's about 8 feet tall from the base of the snake to the backbone, if you will. And it just goes on and it twists around. It's like, how in the world did they do that? But they did.
I don't know. You can read this. This is one of the plaques that's actually there in the park itself. And
it was one guy that saved it. They were going to They were just going to They were going to blade it down and grow corn there or whatever.
And that's how. I mean, and again, that's how they found a lot of these sites, these mound sites in the southeast, up on Ohio. I keep saying up here. Well, you were born in Tennessee. You know what I mean? Your folks live.
I know my folks are from up there, though.
And, a lot of these things were found when they started cutting down the timbers for either logging and then putting in fields. And there's probably tons of them that were plowed under before they really found them. And then in Ohio, and I'm sure everywhere, they were dug. I mean, before there was any idea that they were special.
Yeah, you had guys like my uncle out there like, well, let's just dig a big hole in the top of that thing and
see what's in there.
And see if we find anything cool, and we'll take it and put it on top of our television.
Yeah.
I mean, it.
And that stuff went on. I mean, people were selling artifacts. They were keeping artifacts. Your uncle, if I'm not mistaken, actually belonged to
the Ohio Archaeological Society. He was he everything he had in his collection was numbered, and there were notebooks kept on where it was where it had been found, and he participated in their making sure that stuff was documented. But it was still at his house.
Yeah.
And now I think my cousin's daughter has it in her possession, and I'm like, you better not ever do anything with. I mean, if you do something with that, you take it to a museum and donate it.
Yeah.
I mean, he had some fantastic stuff.
Yeah, he did. If you read this plaque, it talks about some of the stuff Mark said, I said. It's a huge earthen sculpture. It's built on a spur of rock along Ohio Brush Creek. But it's also, and it gets to it here in a minute, it's also located on the edge of a crater. And I didn't realize that until I read this. I didn't realize this was part of a crater system, or not system's probably not the right word, but maybe effect is a better word, that happened probably 300 million years ago. And then it talks about Frederick Ward Putnam, who studied the mound between 1886 and 1889. And mainly through his efforts, the Serpent Mound became the first privately funded archaeological preserve in the United States, which is a big deal. And I suspect, didn't look at all the dates officially, at least. I mean, they discovered this before they found some of the stuff in further south. I mean, there's stuff in Tennessee and Alabama that I know wasn't found until, some of it is in the 1980s or 90s even.
Well, and so they've figured out that this even Serpent Mound is tied to the celestial, either
Right.
the equinox or one of them. That, like, you line it up just right, and it's pointing right at the fall equinox, or I don't know which one it was, but I mean, look at that thing.
I don't know if let's see, the Ancient Earthworks Project published new radiocarbon date suggests Serpent Mound is more than 2,000 years old. You got to put this back, and I can give you a little bit more perspective. A lot of people talk about AD and BC for time periods. 2,000 years ago was zero. So by Christian standards, that's when time started counting. We counted up from there instead of down. So whenever those calendars and time periods were created, this is 2,000 years, at least 2,000 years ago. So think about what was going on in other parts of the world that we know about, and that's when they think this was put in. The article that guy that's been working on some of that radiocarbon stuff, or that group, that's only been in the last 10 years. Supporting attribution of the mound to the Aedean peoples, and maybe around 300 BCE, which is 2,300 years ago. I believe BCE is before current era. Is that epoch or something?
Before current era.
And refers to radiocarbon dating article. So this article is not really that old, and they but then uncovered a lot of things about the Serpent Mound. And I'm going to try to stay a little bit ahead on my notes here. Again, this is, I mean, look at that. Look at how that curls up there. I mean, that's just amazing. You can see in the background there, this tower they've built, and here right in the edge of the tree, so people can look down and get a better image to get an idea of how this lays on the ground or on the earth.
And that sucker's about 50 feet tall.
That tower?
Yeah, and you climb up it, and it's like you can feel the earth swaying.
And these are artifacts that they've, some of the things that have been collected from this area, in which I see, again, some slightly different points, some awls maybe.
Chunky stones.
What kind?
Those chunky game stones, or maybe they were ear spools, or who knows what.
Yeah, who knows? This looks like a big old claw here, or a tooth, bear's tooth maybe.
So I'm not at this site. Well, maybe at this site. I mean, they have found there's a big place up at Chillicothe. So that's a grizzly bear's tooth right there. That Hopewell Mound Center up by Chillicothe, Ohio, they've found grizzly bear claws and teeth, which aren't from anywhere near Chillicothe, Ohio. They had to at least cross the Great Plains to get them.
Yeah.
You had to go to Nebraska just to find a grizzly bear.
And that was the Plains grizzly.
And that was, and I don't think they were Plains grizzly claws, but they had obsidian from Oregon. They had grizzly bear claws and teeth. They had mica from North Carolina. And so these people were trading stuff
all over the country,
all over what we consider to be the continental United States, at least.
Well, there's flint. They find flint all over the country. that came out of literally the Flint Hills of Michigan and that part of the world.
Yeah. I just found a piece of stone 2 days ago that came from North Dakota, Knife River Flint from North Dakota here in western Wyoming.
Cool.
I find Alabates chert, which comes from the panhandle of Texas here. So
they traded, guys. They moved around. They went up and down the rivers. They went up and down the trails. They followed literally the buffalo traces. I mean, the Natchez trace was original.
They were just walking all the time.
Yeah, and
some people
from one place to another. Go ahead.
The mound cultures were probably pretty sedentary, but there were people that from the time they were born till the day they died, all they did was walk and hunt stuff.
True.
And I mean, you know, and you might walk, you're probably more like a Wolverine. You never saw two places twice in your life. You just kept moving.
I've never heard that said of a Wolverine. Makes sense. Is that true, Carol? You ever see same place twice in your life?
Well, we had a Wolverine. We put a radio collar on up in Yellowstone, and they lost him. The people that were monitoring him lost him, and we found him. We found him down here in the darn sagebrush desert. And they got reconnected with him, and he went all the way to Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado.
Wow.
And then he got killed in a chicken house in North Dakota.
Oh, man. Wow, that's a lot of traveling.
That's some walk, and that's what they say, especially about male Wolverines, is that they never see the same place twice. They're just moving their whole life. But
interesting. And what he said about the males is very true about other animals too. That a lot of the male species, and I think some of the bears, oh crap! I was just getting ready to say one in particular, besides the Wolverine. Oh, mountain lions. The males, the toms, just travel, and they're kind of like that. Now they may have a range, but it could be several hundred miles, and they're hunting and looking for females. I mean, that's what they do.
Well, we caught a young male in Buffalo, Wyoming years ago. Put a collar on him, and he got killed on a railroad track in Oklahoma.
Damn.
He was a young male. He was like a yearling male, so he hadn't set up a territory, but you got to go somewhere where the big tom don't eat you.
Exactly.
Because that's their number one cause of mortality, by the way.
Yeah, well, grizzly bears are much like that too, aren't they? Males, the young males.
The cubs, they certainly
are. The cubs, that's what I mean. And these are, again, we've already mentioned the grizzly bear too. This is some cool stuff. And you just said something that made me look at this one piece right here in the middle, and I'm pointing at it, and I know you can't see me pointing. Let me get my hand. This thing.
That's an ear spool.
That looks like an ear spool, sure as heck.
Yeah, so they'd cut their earlobe, and that was like a giant earring.
Just like people would use today and make their ears
like what do they call those, gauged or whatever they call those big old loopy earrings?
Yeah, something like that.
But these were made out of stone.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was a very common form of self-decoration in the Mayan culture and the Aztec culture.
Right on up here. This is kind of neat too, because I don't know. To me, this looks like three kinds of arrow.
So that's a Snyder's point right there. Pretty classic Hopewell point.
Over here?
That one right there.
Yeah, okay.
And then I'm not sure what you would call, the one looks like a biface that wasn't finished.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some cores there and some little bladelets. And I don't know what they would call that point below the one where you're at there. And then there's a cell, and I'm not sure. I think they called those banner stones.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Some people
And some people think they had something to do with an atlatl.
Right. That's what I've seen them called that, but I don't think they do that anymore.
I'm not sure that that's what they were. And then that's a platform pipe over there.
Yeah.
On the other side that there was no stem on it. It was just, they smoked it just like that. And a lot of those are effigy pipes. They'll have bears carved on them or something cool, a hawk or something.
So back to that other thing I was going to start getting to it anyway. Again, this is the snake mound, and this is representing the drawing. It's up kind of on this area of rock. It's not really a bluff, I don't think. I've never been there either, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Where Serpent Mound?
Yeah, Serpent Mound. It's like
it's up on top. It's up on top of a plateau above the
Okay.
Ohio Brush Creek. It is a uplift.
And that's kind of what this map on the left is sort of representing. And at least at one time, they maybe still think that this was part of what they call the Fort Ancient culture. May have had something to do with this, or at least part of this. And that's just another group of mound builders, or I never heard that term until I started reading about it. Were you familiar with that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and they were all over that part of the world my family all comes from, Northeast Kentucky and Southern Ohio, and there were lots of them. Lots of mounds in that part of the world.
Interesting, the comment here that says these civilizations flourished in the modern day regions of southern Ohio, northern Kentucky, southeastern Indiana, and western West Virginia, which I have a picture of here in a minute. I didn't realize they had mounds. Well, I should know that. That's not unusual. I mean, they're in eastern Ohio where your mom and dad live. I know there's mounds there. Anyway, that's, by geological time and historical time and to an archaeologist, this 1,000 years ago, it's still part of the modern day, time. Anyway, you just got to think about it. So I believe it's my next picture explains a little bit more about this. And this is, I have a question or a theory or an idea or whatever the hell, not a theory, a hypothesis about the next thing coming up. Now, this is showing this area is part of a meteorite crater that is the Serpent Mound area is like on the edge of this kind of almost like the escarpment to this meteor hole. And again, I don't know how people figure this kind of stuff out, ancient or new. But when you get up to a satellite and you take pictures of it, you can start to see these things. And this is called the Serpent Mound Crater or the Serpent Mound Disturbance. It's an eroded meteorite impact crater in Ohio. It lies largely in Adams County, with the northern part mostly in Highland County, except for a small northeast part in Pike County. It is classified as a complex crater because it features a central uplift. You can see that right in the middle there. Oh, sorry, my finger don't do the same as it does. Transition zone, and then the ring. I don't know, is that graben? It's a ring-shaped trough around the outer part, and that's eroded. so it's not as obvious now. But they used to think it was about 5 miles across, but in recent stuff they've been able to look. It looks like it could be as much as 7, almost 8 miles or 9 miles across for the whole thing. That was from a 2010 paper that suggests it was bigger than they thought. So my question is, okay, this is a crater. I mean, these people were smart, intelligent, and they knew that things created these craters and all over the world, and the Serpent Mound is right on the edge of this. I just have to wonder if it's not somehow they're not related. That they realized this was something special. An impact zone. They probably didn't have a clue about that so much as, but it was unique and it was special. And hey, that's somehow that had something to do with them settling there. And I can't see the serpent from here. Let's try to look. Maybe that's it right here on the. Oops.
Well, they talk about it. I mean, they talk about that the place was considered sacred.
Yeah.
And they aligned the serpent in a certain direction to be more sacred.
Right.
But they considered that spot special. And I don't know if they had a clue why they thought it was special. Yeah. But it is different than the surrounding landscape.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get to is, they realized that this is different. This is somehow unique. And I'm like you. I doubt that they had a real clue of what it
was. I don't think they had a clue that it was like a big old meteor had come screaming in and broke it and, made that big hole. But
it was something.
But it's definitely different than everything around it.
Yeah. I think that this area right over in here is where the Serpent Mound is, which, if that's true, then this is probably
is that Ohio Brush? If that's Ohio Brush Creek, that's exactly where the mound is.
It's not marked on here, obviously, but that's what it looks like to me. Anyway.
So there's 2 brush creeks in Ohio. One of them's called Scioto Brush Creek, and one of them is Ohio Brush Creek, and they're both pretty good sized streams. And the Ohio Brush Creek flows into the Ohio, and Scioto Brush Creek flows into the Scioto River,
which then flows into the Ohio
before it gets to the Ohio. Yeah. So, but it's right there, right at, and they're both really good places to catch Kentucky bass and smallmouth bass.
About someone who would know these things. Okay, let's see. Moving right along. I've been long-winded here, but now the next couple are just sort of thrown in there. This is the Etowah mounds, and I can't remember. I didn't write down where they were from. Oh, they're Georgia. So these are just a different place. But I mean, again, look at this mound. It's right above the river. I don't know if that or Etowah Creek or Etowah River in Georgia. This is they had 3 drawings of mounds that were in this area, or 3 photographs. I've got both, I think, but this was called Mound C at Etowah, and you can see on top of it there's a structure. I believe this is B. I think this might be A. Well, no, back up. This is Grave. This is Grave Mound in West Virginia. Excuse me, I got behind. The others were A, B, and C at Etowah. I'll go back just real quick here. A, B, and C, and then we get to West Virginia. And to me, that's a pretty high mound for West Virginia. But I threw in a map here to kind of show where it was located. Again, this is the Ohio River. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is up here above this transit marker. You know, this is eastern Ohio, western West Virginia. I believe this is where University or Marshall College or Marshall University is.
At Huntington?
Well, it's in Huntington, isn't it?
Yeah, Marshall's in Huntington.
Yeah, maybe this is not then. This is Marshall County, though, it says. Anyway, this mound is more or less right here in town. And so it's been protected. You can see it's kind of fenced off. I believe I have another artist rendition. Yeah, well, this is it. Somebody drew this in 1850. And they made in 1850. I don't know if they had a clue this mound was special or not. But here's what was going on around it at that time. And the West Virginia and Regional History Center. I don't know when this was done in 1850, but I don't know if it came out in a paper or a news magazine kind of thing at the Times, or maybe even a scientific journal. I don't know if it told. I don't think it did. Oh, well, wait a minute here. I do have something about
Is that
it.
another mound to the left, or is that just landscape?
I'm not sure. I've got a little bit of information on this. Let me see if I can read it. This is a quote from somebody. Maybe it'll tell me in a minute. It says, I went on shore to view a remarkable artificial mound of earth called by the people in this neighborhood the Indian grave. Hang on a minute. I need to gargle like Bugs Bunny. No, la 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 la. This remarkable mound of earth stands on the east bank of the Ohio River, 12 miles below Wheeling, and about 700 paces from the river. As the land is not cleared, the mound is not visible from the river. So, again, you know, countryside's grown up. People don't realize there's things out there. Near the summit of this mound grows a white oak whose girth is 13.5 feet. Pretty good sized white oak.
Old white oak.
Yeah, old white oak. Appearance of this tree, I think its age might reasonably be calculated at 300 years, probably. The whole mound is covered with large timber, sugar tree, of course, maples, that's maple, hickory, poplar, red and white oak, etc. Oh, that was written by Meriwether Lewis. That's right. And this is actually on the eastern end of the Lewis and Clark Trail. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I know that, you know, they got started in the east when Jefferson talked them into making that great mission, or, you know, 1902 or 3, and Meriwether Lewis and Will Clark. Will Clark might have already been out west, Missouri area, but Meriwether Lewis traveled down the Ohio gathering things and, you know, collecting, I guess, men and equipment as he went. And so I guess that's why it starts on this upper end. But this mound is I didn't write that down, but it's at the eastern end of the Meriwether Lewis and Clark Scenic Byway or trail, they call it. You know, it's probably you can follow it along the highway. It's kind of like the what's the one, Mark? And there's also something in lower southern Indiana. It's named after either a native chief. I can't remember. Anyway, it's the George Rogers Clark Trail. That's what I'm trying to think of. There's something similar to that along southern Indiana and probably a little bit of Ohio, maybe, and Illinois, where George Rogers Clark went out there and
The Vincennes and all that.
Yeah, and captured them or took them from the British, during the Revolution. Another amazing story. Maybe sometime I'll try to talk about that. Which brings us to here. And I don't know if that's really a sunrise or a sunset, but I thought we'll call it a sunset for this. Now, I did put a couple more things here at the end.
You need to advance your slide, dude.
Huh?
You need to advance your slide.
Oh, damn it. That slide. I was advancing it, just not in the right place. So there's my sunset or sunrise, but it's going to be the sunset for now anyway.
Is that Cahokia?
I don't remember. It might be. I just plugged it in there because I like the picture, but I wanted the sun. But I did throw in a couple more slides here. One, I realize now that I've already talked about. I was trying to make this bigger. This shows again some of the expansion and some of the different villages and cities or communities amongst these particular peoples. And it names some more. There's Cahokia, there's Kings Mounds, which also I think had some kind of river crossing associated with it. But this line is the one I was mentioning earlier. It says northern limit of 200 frost-free days. So whenever this was done, they think this had something to do with at least partially how these cultures advanced and maybe why they grew in certain ways, because down here they could grow crops longer. I don't know, maybe that had something to do with it. Probably did have something to do with it. And if you look, you can see that I tried to blow this one up because I know you couldn't see it on the other slide earlier, but it shows where some of these are. And there's Etowah. I think you guys got the right slide. Etowah down here. This is the southern Appalachian area. A lot of people don't realize that the Appalachians actually run down into Georgia and Alabama. But anyway, it's cool stuff, and I've already talked about that one. So I am going to call that the end of that and turn that off. And I've not seen anything anybody has said about anything. So if I've missed things, I apologize. And Rhonda's in and out, but listening. If I'm that far, I think Marshall's south of Columbus, isn't it? I don't know. You'd have to tell me. I can't remember.
It's in Huntington, West Virginia.
It's in Huntington, West Virginia. I have a friend that her and her husband go, and she used to be one of my volunteers at cleanups. In fact, probably my best volunteer because she used to organize people. She was good at it. And but anyway, she went to Marshall, and he went to Marshall, I believe, for a while. So they have season tickets to the Marshall football games, so they were always going to Marshall for that. Anyway, so there we are. We've talked about mound builders, and they're fascinating peoples, for lack of a better term, I guess. They were around for a long time, and they did a lot of neat stuff. And I grew up never even knowing they were there until I got older and got to college. Probably I learned a lot more once I got to college, and especially once I got to TVA, because there were a lot of these areas affected by the Tennessee River, both just because they were part of the TVA watershed, but also in areas where TVA flooded when they built some of the reservoirs. Some of them got covered up. Some of them got covered up because they didn't even know they were there, that kind of thing. But anyway, fascinating peoples, I think. Mark and I talked about this whole idea of them basically being displanted, or what's the right word for that? Relocated Mayans from the Yucatan Peninsula, or where they moved further north. And that's the story of Native Americans. I mean, we've mentioned this, I think, some before, but it's just like the Sioux. I think used to think of the Sioux Indian Nation as just being out west, western side of the Great Plains, North Dakota, Montana, parts of, but they actually started out further east and got moved over time. Different native groups moved different groups around, moved them south, moved them north. I mean, it's just history and people. I mean, it's what people do. And it's been going on for a long, long time, even back when the earth didn't seem nearly so populated as it does now. Oh, you may have noticed there's not been an extra clock today. I broke my clock. I was setting it or something, and a piece fell out in my hand, and I thought, "Wow, what is that?" And it's a little piece of metal strip that hangs. It's got to do with the what do they call that wheel? Anyway, it's hooked to the pendulum, and they call it a
Zeus rod.
they call it a
Your
suspension.
Zeus rod fell out of your Willikin wheel.
Yeah, that's called they call it a suspension part, and it's like a paper thin strip of metal that's attached to, on one end, soldered into a post, and then on the other end it's got a piece hooked to it that's got like a hook on it or a loop, which contains the movement of the pendulum. It's neat, but I got to find a new piece because it broke. I guess it just broke over time. Yeah, my clock's fast. That's why I looked over at that clock. I need to reset it. It's a little fast. I need to adjust on the pendulum on that one and get it acting right. But my grandmother clock is sitting up here on my desk, and it needs a part. So
and remember, folks, since 1899,
the green can,
the green, white, and red can.
white and red, green, white, and red. Do you think all the pyramids are related? I know several believe they are. In what way? Okay, as in they all religious wise, or because I'd say they are, and I'd say they point in the same directions. I'd say they probably line up. Some of them may line up with each other, for all I know. But I do suspect that there's relationships between them. Just like I suspect that Stonehenge and Woodhenge are related. I mean, they both point to the same things in different parts of the world. So, I mean, I think that's pretty unique. Well, I mean, you can speak to that probably better than I can, but I mean, you know what she's asking. I mean, I do too, but Marshall just scored 7-0 halfway through the first quarter. That's unexpected.
They're playing Ohio State.
Oh, are they?
That's what. Who said that?
Oh, I missed. Oh, OSU was playing Marshall.
Rhonda said that.
Yeah.
OSU was playing Marshall today. That'd be cool to see Marshall whip them.
They could. Marshall's actually had a pretty good team lately. Probably OSU they don't expect to beat, but yeah, you never know. They just might. That the architects are somewhat the same. Maybe, probably handed down information, but I don't know. It's possible that some of the architects moved. I saw this sitting here. I was going to show you that piece while we're talking.
OSU's favored by 40 points.
Oh, God. This is that suspension piece I was talking about. See that thin?
Yeah.
It's like a feeler gauge or something, a thin strip of metal.
Yeah.
And on the other end's a hook. And it is called. And I just dropped a little bitty piece. Uh-oh. Tim, that's what when I was growing up, my mom or somebody would, your dad probably even would have said, that, don't let Tim have it, he'll drop it. Well, my shoes are dirty. Been walking through the wet grass. Yeah, I'll find it in a minute. Oh, there it is. No, that's not it. I'll find it. Oh, I know what it is now. It's a nut for my hands. Get the hands back on with. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed some of that. Here's the thing, Carol. Here's what Marshall gets out of that. Probably a whole lot of money for playing them. It's what somebody was telling me. I mean, not telling me, but I was watching a game the other day, and it was one of the big universities, and they were playing a small school and beating the pants off of them, of course. And they said that
got a bunch of dollars.
They said that the commentators were talking about that, and they said that generally speaking, there was like $1.5 million that they paid that school just to come there and play, so they can beat the pants off of them, I guess, and build up get their donors to kick in. But I figured out one day, University of Tennessee Stadium used to be the biggest in the country. Then Michigan's was the biggest. Then somewhere else now is the biggest. But it held 107 or 8 or 9,000 people. I can't remember. 107,000 people in one spot in Knoxville, and they're all buying a ticket. I mean, that's millions and millions of dollars every time they play football. It's just amazing. I never really thought about it in dollars and cents until I started adding up some of those prices or ideas. But Chuck was wondering when you were going to do a show on ghosts. Well, maybe I ought to do one on ghosts. Let me write that down. That's that'd be that could be interesting. I think I hadn't really thought about that. Write that down right here. Show on ghost. Why not? I don't know if he's serious. Oh, yeah, Halloween special, Rhonda. That's a good idea. And since it's already Halloween season, apparently all over the place, we can do it anytime between now and then. Mission is currently the biggest. Is it? I thought the other day somebody said that like one of the Texas schools now had the largest stadium in the country. Second largest in the world. Oh my. Now, you're not just bragging, are you, Carol? You may think I'm crazy, but I believe in ghosts. Well, you're not the only one, probably. I'm not so, well, hell, Mark's got a ghost at his house. I'd like to see that black and white cat Teddy for Halloween. I'd like to see Teddy in this building. Brenda tried to bring him out here this morning, and he went under the bed and didn't want to cooperate. So he and I are going to have a sit down and talk about that. He ain't getting paid if he's not going to participate. If he's not going to come out and be in the show anymore, I'm going to take him down. Ian's still with us, and he said all those big schools keep adding a few thousand seats every. Oh yeah, that used to be a big deal too, Ian. I can remember when Tennessee was the largest for quite a while, I think, but then it got to be a competition when they started really being on TV and people were talking about, oh, this stadium holds 102,000, and then Michigan said, oh, we hold 103,000, and Tennessee bumped theirs up to 107 standing room or something, and it's nuts. It's nuts. So OSU is now tied Marshall at 7-7. And Tina believes in ghosts too. So we'll have to do it. We'll have to work on that. Marshall's lead lasted a minute. 1 minute. That was game time, so I'm guessing that one counts, from kickoff to score. So anyway, what is it? What's the ghost? What's the name of the ghost that's in your house? Elizabeth or something?
Lillian.
Lillian. Lillian. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
Well,
she followed my wife for years.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Various places, and she's a what? I said that makes her a poltergeist. She's a poltergeist, technically, not a ghost.
Well, that's because they make noise or something, and then or knock things over or do things.
I don't know what makes them a poltergeist versus a ghost.
Football.
All I know is we have weird stuff happens at the house that we can't account for.
Carol said, and this is true. I believe this. And they panned the seat numbers closer together to add seats. Eventually, we did add box seats to actually increase seats. That's what Tennessee did until they got to the point where I don't think they've got any room to go any higher. And of course, they filled in the end that my uncles knocked out many, many years ago playing football. So they got a lot of seats.
The whole end of that stadium.
The whole end of that horseshoe. And if you guys haven't heard that story, I'll tell it another time. But somebody can ask me about it. But it was one of the tall tales my uncles told me when I was a kid. Rhonda says she has seen some ghosts. I don't look for them though. Oh, gypsy descendant. Who is Ian talking about their back?
The poltergeist there.
Oh, okay. All right, guys. I'm about to lose my voice, so I know people have things to do, and it's Saturday, and I don't know what we're doing the rest of the day. I might do something, but again, I might be watching football. I'll have to see here in a minute. I need to run to the lumber yard and get me a board cut for some shelving, but you guys might see some changes here in the room today. The couch.
Yeah, it looks like it's getting squared away.
It's starting to. I gotta go. I need some more bookshelves. Believe it or not, I'm running out of bookshelf space. I know it's hard. That's hard to believe.
Ain't my fault either.
No, it's not your fault. But I did order some more books the other day. Oh, look what I got.
Oh, did you get that set of I don't remember who was the author now.
There was H.G. Wells, but I didn't get
H.G. Wells.
But I did get this one the other day.
Colonel Roosevelt.
I thought this could be interesting. This was part of a lot that I bought from the girls. There was a set of books by who wrote them? A famous writer.
Yeah, that guy.
He wrote a series of books about Abraham Lincoln, and I got that with this and a couple of books I'd probably give away. I probably won't. And I got and one of them was and I didn't realize this was in there. Funny thing is, I just started watching The War, Ken Burns, documentary, The War, about World War II.
You just started watching it?
Again.
Oh, again, okay.
Because I got things hooked up so I can watch it now. And I got a copy of the hardback book that accompanied that originally when he came out, probably in VHS tapes. You could buy the book. It's about yay big, hardback, about that thick, full of pictures that they used in the show and some they didn't. And so that came, I don't know, that just serendipitous. I bought some books, and lo and behold, this documentary that I'm watching on TV, I got a book about it. So things happen like that.
Serendipitous. We've used that term twice in the last 2 weeks.
I like that word. It comes in handy every once in a while. Oh, they're talking about some.
I was talking to you about the fact that Teddy is grinning at the end of this.
Oh yeah, that all you found.
At that all with the mammoth carving on it.
The
Said,
chest there
isn't
smiling.
that serendipitous?
It is serendipitous. You had me believing you found that for a minute, you know. Carol
Well,
says, "Oh,
it's like the horse. It's like the horse.
yeah,
I made that copy of that horse carving from the oldest wildlife art in
no,
Great Britain,
oh, in Britain, okay." Carol
12,000 years or 13,000 years, maybe older than that. 40,000 years. I don't remember now.
Yes, Carol, it was a part of a small box that had maybe 8 or 10 books in it. 12. Yeah, something like that. So, yes, and then I tried to buy some more and I didn't get the other ones. Dang it.
Tina said that the husband laughs at her for using serendipitous.
Well, he can just laugh. Oh, what's Ron? Who's Ron saying? Tina saw, oh, changes behind me. No, you wouldn't need more bookshelves. Not at all.
Yeah, it's getting quite homey looking out there now.
You need more A's in back. What, wait a minute. Carol, or Rhonda, I'm missing something here. Maybe that wasn't meant for me. And then maybe it was. Oh, Tina says she thinks it's her mom. Is the some ghost that stuff happens. So is that the house you grew up in, Tina? I'll ask that question and I'll get caught up a little bit more.
So Luna, she saw Luna the other day, and that was Rhonda's dog.
Oh, okay.
I thought she was seeing my filly.
Yeah, that's what well, that was my first thought.
Like, how you seeing my filly clear out here in Wyoming?
Your filly was born
June.
on a full moon.
She was born on during a. I can't remember what moon it was. It was one of the.
I can't either. That's what I was trying to. I just know it was a full moon, right?
Yeah, it was a full moon, a strawberry moon, and she was. It was D-Day.
They're back. Okay, yeah, now I get it. Oh, her mom has followed them to their house. Ah, interesting. Well, that's what Mark. I mean, that's the deal with Lillian. Apparently, Lillian has followed Mark's wife, Shauna, from other places, but she's like always.
Well, they had bought a house. Her and her first husband had bought a house outside of Laramie.
Eastern
And there was an old gal that was her husband murdered her in that house, and her name was Lillian. And she was there, and she moved to Kemmer, and now she moved out here to Opal, and she opens doors and she does weird things that we can't explain.
And yeah, I knew about the door opening or closing.
I mean, stuff that just like, what? How did that just happen?
And I just realized that I've spent a week or so in your house, and I don't think I saw any phenomena that I can remember.
We're just like, what? How did that happen?
Well,
and maybe it's the 4,927 deer mice we have living with us.
Yeah, maybe. That sounded like your daughter.
She said something, I can't hear her.
I said that she opened the barn door.
Oh, she opened the barn door.
And she closed it.
And closed it.
Oh, now that's weird. Oh, man. Well, guys, I've had I've enjoyed it today. I'm glad everybody got to make it.
And it ain't like like a door, like a swinging open door. It's a sliding door
Sliding door, yeah, that's what I thought.
that has a latch on it. So yeah, it's just weird.
Well, that's
Either that or some hobo got off the train. He's been living in our barn.
possible. Oh man, I was just
They
reading about
still
hobos.
ride the tracks occasionally. So
Occasionally they do. Ride the rails. What a life that must have been at that time frame in history in America.
no, they still do it.
Well, I know, but I mean when there was a lot of hobos riding the rails and
back when it was like a common occurrence.
yeah. But
And
there were hobo villages.
you had to hire bulls if you were the railroad company.
Right. And there were hobo village or towns they called them, I guess, and
Yep.
and they had secret messages. That's something I learned a few years ago that I didn't know at any time growing up was the like the coded messages they left at these hobo towns. You know, it said you go this way and you can get a pie in the window every once in a while.
Yeah, you'll get a meal. She'll feed you a free meal or whatever.
Oh. Big old yellow cat going through my yard.
We have a big old yellow cat here in the house right now.
Do you?
Yeah, we had a traumatic day 2 days ago, and the dogs found a litter of cats, and not a litter. They're like 6-month-old cats, and they dispatched 2 of them.
I was going to say, how many of them survived?
And Caitlin waded into the middle of it and got the 3rd one out, and then I'm like, why are you upset? Why are you grumpy? Well, I saw the dogs kill a cat, and they were all involved with it, and
it was a group murder.
and that's the term she used was murder, and I'm like, no, they just killed a cat, but
yeah, they killed a cat.
They did what dogs have always done, but anyway.
Did somebody dump the cats out, you think?
They're dumping them out here on us.
Yeah.
And
dumping animals.
And then she's like, and I'm like, well, I asked her why she was grumpy about that deal, and then she said, and the ones in here in my bedroom.
Uh-huh.
And I had told my bride that we can have 1 cat in the house. We got 2 now. So
one of them's a little bitty cat.
One of them's don't count because she's not able to get around. But
yeah, disabled cat.
And this one won't. This one ain't eating or drinking, so
she may not survive.
We're trying to see what can be done for her, I guess. I hope it's a her. It's a yellow cat, though.
Yeah. Yellow cats are usually pretty special. I mean, the yellow cats I've had in my life were anyway.
Well, I picked it up one time and I was bleeding. Seriously, like bleeding, like, oh shoot.
Well, they're probably a little feral and just got out of a dog fight, so.
Well, and it's definitely feral. I think it was actually born. We used to have an old house up in the northeast corner of the property that ain't there anymore. The railroad tore it down. And, it's on their right of way, and they tore it down. And that's where Mama Cat was living and raising babies. And she got dumped out there a year ago or so. And anyway,
Rural America, folks, it still happens.
I drove down my driveway day before yesterday, and I saw a big old black cat. Well, it was me and my son and my grandson, and I saw a big old black cat out in my alfalfa field mousing.
Yeah.
And Sam said something about, well, we could get rid of it. And I'm like, no. And Mama and Caitlin never speak to me again. So we drove on by, but it was a black cat. And we get to the house and cat stuff had happened everywhere while we were gone.
Oh, wow.
This is while we were antelope hunting.
That wasn't a full moon period, was it? We just had one.
So she's trying to get this thing to eat something or.
Oh, she's been.
So let me tell about one
What
more.
you just hang on just a second. So she's got her to eat now. So
Good.
Yeah.
Kay just mentioned it. Sometimes they'll eat meat flavored baby food.
So she's made a slurry out of and she's got a hip thing going on. I don't know. I'm sure she's in a little bit of pain. But she's got her to eating some like meat slurry gravy kind of stuff. She's sucking that right down. So
I'd like to have some gravy myself on a biscuit. Yeah, making me hungry. I tell you what else.
Make a big old pan of brown gravy and like some bread. Oh my goodness. We used to make whole meals out of that.
I'm jonesing. Well, my wife would probably say you're always jonesing for something.
You're jonesing for a steak biscuit, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I am that now. It's after I can't get one now though.
Why?
I don't think they make them this late in the day at this old Hardee's.
Oh. Yeah, it's too late in the day.
And biscuits and gravy sound good right now. They sure do.
Oh man.
Or an open faced roast beef with gravy poured on.
Oh my goodness.
What do you think?
Stop it.
Do something like that they call a brown sandwich or something. I can't. Can Shauna send a little of that gravy to Tim? I want a telescope. I want not huge and fancy. I just want. In fact, I'm looking for cheap, but I want a telescope. I'm out here now where even though we've got some street.
That's what you're jonesing for, is a telescope?
Yeah, I'm looking for a used. I mean, I bid on one. The girls had an auction yesterday. It ended last night, and I missed it. I had one there I could have got for like $7 or something, and I didn't get it. But I don't know. I can see stuff here, and I want to. I mean, it's dark enough that I can actually see. It's not as dark as at your house, probably, but it's a lot darker than it was anywhere I've lived for 25 years.
Well, we got this gas facility north of us here that puts out quite a little bit of light pollution.
Yeah, actually, I remember that.
But if we get far enough south on the property, you can block some of that out. But we can. I bought Caitlin a telescope years ago, and we could see Saturn and Jupiter. You could see the big eye on Jupiter and the rings on Saturn, and they're all in there. If you find one of them, I guess I never really thought about it. We're all in orbit around the sun, and we're on the same orbit. And if you find like Venus, for instance, you just go up the sky at a certain line, and there's Saturn, and there's Mars, and there's Jupiter. Mm-hmm. I don't think we've been able to find your backside or Pluto.
They might be a little far out there. I think your backside.
It's a nicer way of saying it.
And part of me would like to at least on a rudimentary level, kind of what you were just saying, learn to read a star chart. Star charts and maps are not as, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't come to me as naturally as a topographic map does, for example.
Yeah.
I lay down and look at it. I got to think in 3D here when I'm thinking about stars.
And I can pick out certain constellations like Orion and
Yeah, I can too.
of course the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper and some of those things. But the kids bought us when we got married. They bought us a map of the sky over Opal or over the house the night we got married, and it's a star chart, and it's so busy. I have a hard time figuring out what's what on it. But that's on a when you're out in the desert away from any lights, you can see so many stars. It's insane. On the Big Dipper and or not the Big Dipper, the Milky Way. Where I go to hunting camp, the sky is amazing. And
I know. The time you and I went to middle of Wyoming in the Sierra Madres part of it.
Yeah, when we were in the Madres.
I stepped out of the tent first night we were there camping, and I looked up, and it just about knocked me down. It was just so.
Well, and you just can't even pick things out. It's so busy. There's so many stars up there and so many planets and so much stuff. And tell me we're alone. I don't buy it. That there ain't something somewhere out there.
Okay. Tina asked the question, and there's been a couple of people commenting. I actually did hear about that, but I haven't read up on it. But I knew there was an asteroid that was somehow going to get, I don't know, it was going to be, you could see it be around or something. I didn't know they were calling it a temporary moon, though. That's interesting. I'll have to read up on it more now. Yeah, the temporary mini moon is an asteroid. That's what it says. I had just read, because I've been looking at star stuff. I've been looking at, where did I read that?
Is it getting ready to smack into us?
No, I don't think it's anything like that. Well, we may or may not know. Our library lends out telescopes. You know what? There's a place here too, Carol. There's a bunch of astrologists around the university, which is not unusual. And when there's something big happening, or when planets are aligned, or when you can see a whole bunch of stuff like that, the astronomers at UT will get out. They have somewhere they go, and they'll set up a whole bunch of telescopes.
That's not a moon; it's a Death Star. That's a good one, Carol.
The other coolest thing that ever happened that I ever did star-wise was when you were working at Land Between the Lakes, and they had that big telescope down there.
Oh, yeah.
One of the guys that worked there was out messing with it or did something, or we went and knocked on his door. I can't remember. But he opened up the telescope and let you and I look through it and see some really cool things.
Some really cool things.
First time I'd ever actually seen a spiral galaxy.
Or like the Crab Nebula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing was so cool. Oh, my goodness. I don't know if that's still out there or not. I guess it is, but, we don't have anything to do, or we don't. I'm not there anymore anyway, but TVA didn't have anything to do with Land Between the Lakes. Forest Service took it over. Back there.
Yeah, that's what I'd heard, that they ended up with the place.
Well, that's back when certain people at TVA were running things and talking about getting rid of everything, wanting to sell all the land and all that kind of stuff. And they ended up not selling it, but basically handing it over to the Forest Service to manage. So they've got it, which is probably a good thing. They'll probably be able to hang on to it. So but anyway,
I went to another one of those in Flagstaff in Arizona, and that was pretty special too. Those big telescopes are amazing.
Oh, they are.
But you don't get to just grab a hold of it and move it around, you know.
No, it's not. It don't work like that. Rhonda, oh crap, you made me think. Oh, another thing that's kind of cool, and maybe you guys have seen this too, but I mean, they're making a lot of telescopes now too. You can put your phone in them or on them, and they'll help you line stuff up or find stuff or take pictures. Or you can look through, you can set the phone up to the scope so it looks through you can see the image on a screen, which I think is really pretty cool too. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff like that out there going on. I recently saw for sale a really nice telescope. It had a motorized base. So, it followed and tracked on its own with programming. And that was a little bit out of my price range, needless to say.
And Ian, I bet that's fantastic going to Gallup and looking through a telescope there. That'd be
that'd be great. I mean, anytime you can get out away from places, you don't realize how bad light pollution is or how much there is of it until you get out where there's not.
And
like on a mountain out in the middle of Wyoming where there's nothing around but you and the sky. I mean, talk about a Kizzy moment. I mean, Jiminy, wow.
A Kizzy moment.
You know what I'm talking about. Oh, Kizzy, the only thing greater than yourself. Roots. Oh, my goodness. All right, guys, I'm going to shut down, although I'm having fun, just sitting here talking about stuff. And probably getting me in trouble about books and things, but I'm doing that on my own. Oh, speaking of that, this is your fault, by the way. I can blame you for this.
This is my fault.
Yeah, I just ordered a copy of the what's it called? The Ghost Squadron or the Ghost
Soldiers.
Soldiers, yeah.
I'll claim that one.
You told me about it, and I found
Hampton Sides.
Huh?
Hampton Sides.
Yeah, I hadn't got it yet, but I saw it hardback used copy that I could find for cheap. That was in.
Great to see you, Ian.
All right, Ian. Thanks for showing up, buddy. It's good to see you. It's been too long. It's good to see you guys around, Rhonda and Ian and whoever else has been here that's not been here lately. I appreciate you coming back. It's been fun. But anyway, I'm gonna let everybody get going. They got things to do. I probably don't have things to do, but we'll see. I got my steps fixed. I got my anti-skid put up on the steps now. So
nice.
I have the fall probably encouraged me to do that. So I have more ADA compliant steps now. I have handrails and I have anti-skid on my stairs.
Nice.
Looks pretty good too, if I must say myself. And I will have to say it because nobody else will be here to say it. Anyway, all right. Mark, love you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Love you guys.
Tell everybody.
Thanks for sitting.
Tell her about there. I said hey and howdy, and good luck with the cat, Caitlin. And anyway, post a picture of it when you get a chance.
I don't have enough blood in my body to post a picture of that thing.
Okay, Carol, I think this is a big game too. They're actually playing a big school this week. It's not a conference game, but it is I think
Who's
it's
playing a big game?
Tennessee. I mean, they're playing a bigger, they have a harder game tonight.
They're playing like Georgia or somebody.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't think it's conference. Although they may be starting since the conference is getting bigger. Maybe they are. Maybe they're playing Texas or something.
UGA's not playing this week, so
Yeah.
Rhonda just said so. They're.
Thank you, Carol. When do the Wolverines play? Is that this afternoon or tonight? If Tennessee's tonight,
You're going to be footballing all day.
Of course.
Who, me?
And my wife just said, "Well, of course it's Saturday."
There should be football all day today and halfway through the night.
I don't know who the Pokes are playing, if they are.
I saw another team last night or this week. I watched. Sometimes I'll fall asleep watching a football game. Now I found out you can get like a whole conference of smaller schools, and who was it? It's a school in Louisiana, McNeese.
Oh, yeah, McNeese.
Cowboys.
Huh?
And they're called the Cowboys, and they were calling them the Pokes. I didn't hear anybody else say that.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Oh, that ain't even funny.
I thought, boy, the Wyoming people aren't going to like that.
No, heck no.
Rhonda said, actually, there's football through Monday. Well, that's true. Sometimes I don't count the pro stuff, but there's definitely plenty of college on today, though.
Well, they'll be bull riding on tomorrow.
Yeah, but I don't get it. So
you need to figure that out.
Oh, I'm working on it. It probably happen pretty soon because I got my cable fixed now. They finally picked it up off the ground and reburied it, and so I'm back in business. I've been a temporary
back in business.
I tell you what, though, I learned something. That fiber cable, like they put here, the one that was laying on top of the ground, I put just a really light pressure on it to get it up off the ground so the lawnmower guy didn't hit it, and it slowed it down. That was enough to slow it down.
Seriously?
It's all I can figure. I went and unhooked it, and it seemed like it got better instantly. And of course, now I've got the best cable speed I've ever had in this building. And so when it got a little bit slower the other day, I thought, I ain't going to get it. And apparently, Rhonda, it's a little bit like a straw. You can squeeze it off. You getting ready to go? You're muted, but all right. See you guys. I'm going to leave here, guys. Everybody have a good Saturday. If you're watching football, I hope your team wins. And if not, I hope my team wins. So, but anyway, good luck in Michigan. And I'll have to get Tennessee's game lined up and see what I can do from there. And you won't get the speeds in the house that match what comes in unless you have the right stuff. Well, that may be true, but I've actually got fiber optic all the way into my building here. And I've got, fastest speeds I've ever had. Not a gig. I can get a gig, but I'm getting close. So, hey, Dave, welcome in, buddy. I was just getting ready to leave. We've been here. I'm a little late today. In fact, I'm past an hour late, so I'm really late. But we just been yakking and having fun. Good to see you. Have you guys been to Dollywood this year? And you probably haven't. I just didn't know it. I missed the show. And I've got to apologize to everybody that I've missed lately because I can't seem to catch up. But anyway. No, that's true. I do know that, Rhonda. I've got according to the guy that worked on this one, I've got about as good as I can get out here in this building inside, in this area at least. And so I'm pretty happy with it. It's like I said, it's the fastest I've ever had. So even at work. I feel like I'm as fast here as I was at work. So everything, no tag, lags, etc. Oh, thanks, Tina. Well, that's good to know, Tina. No, don't jinx it. But I mean, I don't see any lags either, and I get downloads. Download speeds are just incredibly fast. And let's put it this way: I've got a speed tester, and it goes up. I think the top number on it is 500,000 megabytes or whatever, and it pegs and goes beyond that every time I check it. So, and I've never had anything that even got halfway to that before. But so I'm pretty tickled with it. Even the one in the house is good. It's not as good as this, but it's good. So I got to figure out how to get this into my house now without upsetting somebody's apple cart, because the cable companies that I'm working with don't seem to be able to think outside the box. What is he's doing? Yes, Netherworld. Where's the Netherworld, Dave? Is that at Six Flags? Oh, mazes. Oh, mate. You know, that's something I've never done, is gone to a corn maze, and they have them all over the place down here. I need to do that. Not you later, but there are several mazes in Farmington area I'm in now. Oh, that's right. You're in. That's in in Stone Mountain. Okay, but now Rhonda, you're north of the city, aren't you? Now, or have I got that backwards? Because Dave and them live down towards Stone Mountain area. I think I could be confused, but and Lord knows my memory ain't what it once was. Well, Tina, that's what I suspect too. Although I'll be honest with you, I think I probably shy away from things like that these days because I can't walk worth a damn. Now the world is Stone Mountain, one of the top. Oh, haunted houses, cool. Okay, that's where you used to live. Okay, I do have it backwards then. I thought you went the other way. Anyway, guys, here I am still talking, and I'll sit here and talk as long as anybody talks. So I guess if you guys don't want me on here, if you don't want me taking up your time, you'll have to just leave, and then I'll leave. You know. Yeah, I bet. I get that, Tina. I mean, it sucks. Is that just transportation issues, Rhonda, or driving? Like I drive at night still, but I don't like it so much as I used to. I guess is one way to put it. PTSD. I got you. Well, Brenda's a little bit like that too. She don't talk about it much anymore, but she used to. That used to be a problem for her, and she's still a little PTSD and a whole lot of geographically challenged when it comes to map reading. Or she's bought better now. She's got it on her phone because she can follow her phone. So she's not as bad. She used to be. Oh my gosh, she used to panic so bad. And when we moved to Nashville, it was terrible. And in fact, she never did. She had one really bad episode in Nashville, and I don't think she ever drove in Nashville or around Nashville again. I get you, Rhonda. It's killing me right now because we can't get out and do a lot of things I want to do. 20-7 OSU now. They're starting to push towards that 40-point spread. So, Dave, if you're still here, is that Netherworld? Is that it's open now and will be open through Halloween, or is it just about to open? I can remember none of that stuff opened at least until, October 1st. But I also know that's no longer a thing, so. Yep, it's open. Earlier and earlier. Of course, Disney starts putting out stuff in August now, so. And other places seem to be sort of following that lead, if not by the end of August, certainly by the 1st of September. I guess I don't totally blame them. Now the world is run by actors and special effects. Oh, my goodness. Well, that would be special then. Brenda would like that. She would like to come go through the haunted house with you. I don't know. She's not said anything lately, so I don't know if she's still in here or not. But she's more into that than I am. I can do it, I think. But I've never been a scary person. There's certain things that don't bother me, but there's other things that I'm not too crazy about. Been that way since I was a kid. I don't know. Something must have scared the pants off of me. Come on down to Atlanta. Well, we'll have to give that some thought, Dave. That'd be fun some weekend. Christmas stuff. Wait a minute. What's BJ's? Oh, Costco's. Oh, okay. I got you. I think I understand now, Tina. Oh, I'm sure. I hadn't been in a store like Walmart in a while, but I bet those places. Wholesale club. Okay. I'd say that places down here have Christmas stuff out too. Well, that's true, Rhonda. Good point. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and leave. I said I was going to. Like I said, I know what you guys got things to do, and I probably ought to do something. I need to call Brendan and see if we're going. I wanted to run down to pick up some shelving stuff. I think I'm going to have a trailer hitch put on our car so I can get a trailer, and then I can haul furniture because I need to go find a couple more bookcases and a couple other things here pretty soon. Well, you know what, Rhonda? I need to go find some food too, so I think that's what I'm going to do right now. I think there's some leftover pizza down there, and I may just eat that. Anyway, guys, thanks for being here. Have a great weekend. Dave, good to see you, buddy. Rhonda, same to you. Ian, I think is gone. All you guys, that haven't been around lately. And Dave, I'm going to come down and check out your show and see what you guys have been into, and especially if you get to that haunted house. So anyway, thanks everybody for being here. Love you guys. Really do appreciate it. See you real soon. Hopefully next week. Bye-bye.